Chapter 328. Yang Dingtian, Jiao Liao, Madame Ximen, Ximen Lai. The four of them circulated their profound qi to the extreme and prepared their strongest profound skill-killing moves. Yang Dingtian held Ah Chao's youngling sword in his right hand and circulated the energy of million spirit demon fire to the extreme. The 8th grade Devil Flame Island Art's third move, Devil Calamity Prison Splitting Blade, was also prepared. The reason why he didn't use Devil from the Heart was because the time required was too long, and there were too many requirements for the target. On the left and right, he circulated the lightning attribute Mountain Split to the extreme. Normally, Yang Dingtian would never use lightning attribute profound skill, because it might expose his identity as the hidden sex disciple, which was very fatal. But now, in order to kill Huaimo Sha, he had to use this move. Although Huaimo Sha's body was penetrated by the energy black hole, and he suffered great pain from the transformation of his profound veins. So his current cultivation was far from his peak. But he still couldn't be underestimated. Yang Dingtian had to use lightning attribute profound skill to tear apart his defense. The four of them held their breaths, waiting for the moment to kill. "Bitch, I'll kill you!" Huaimo Sha roared furiously. Carrying a soaring murderous aura, he turned into a raging fire and charged into the room. Boom! Instantly, the sturdy wall shattered into pieces. Huaimo Sha charged in like a wild beast, raised his huge devil wand and smashed it on the bed. Mountain Split. The lightning attribute profound skill in Yang Dingtian's left hand suddenly struck out. Instantly, an incomparably huge lightning struck down on Huaimo Sha's head. Lightning attribute profound skill ignored any defense. Moreover, Yang Dingtian's cultivation was already infinitely close to revered martial artist. So the power of this lightning strike was extremely huge. After Huaimo Sha was concentrated, the raging fire shield on his body instantly extinguished. His beast-like huge body was instantly paralyzed. Yang Dingtian's lightning attribute profound skill couldn't kill him, or even seriously injure him, but it could tear apart his energy defense and paralyze him to the ground. This was enough. Kill. After the lightning strike, Yang Dingtian's youngling sword slashed down. Demonic prison splitting saber. Instantly, a set of huge black and red flaming sabers slashed down at Fire's Meltemo Sha. At the same time, Ximen Lai, Madame Ximen, and Jiao Liao unleashed their strongest profound skills at the same time. Madame Ximen's profound skill was a red sleeve of light that fiercely wrapped around the neck of the fire-melting Masha. Ximen Lai's profound skill was a gigantic light sword that descended from the sky. On the other hand, Jiao Liao's profound skill was countless light shadow illusionary snakes that drilled through the fire-melting Masha's body. Furthermore, these light shadow illusionary snakes were poisonous. This was because Snake Tail Jiao practiced the art of poison. Being attacked by four profound skills, Fiery Molten Sand's enormous body shook violently. Its eyes, which were the size of copper bells, suddenly widened and shot out rays of disbelief. Boom! For enormous bursts of energy suddenly drilled into his body, violently tearing apart his internal organs, his profound veins, and his sea of energy. PFFF. No! An intense roar rang out. Blood spurted out from Fiery Molten Sand's 7 orifices like arrows. At first it was bright red, then purple red, and then black red. At the same time, Fiery Molten Sand's body instantly turned black. He had been poisoned by Jiao Liao. At this moment, Fiery Molten Sand's eyes were filled with blood. He stared at Yang Dingtian and said coldly, "You tricked me?" "That's right, I tricked you," Yang Dingtian said coldly. "Don't you feel that your cultivation has deteriorated greatly? It directly went from a 9-star revered martial artist to a 5-star revered martial artist. Coupled with the pain of reconstructing the profound veins, your cultivation is even more unbearable." "That inch of purple Naga's profound veins are fake?" Fiery Molten Sand asked. "Of course it's real, Yang Dingtian. But I poisoned it, a poison that will devour all of your profound energy." "I understand, you are indeed sinister and powerful," Fiery Molten Sand said. Then Fiery Molten Sand looked at Jiao Liao and said, "You betrayed me?" "Yes, I betrayed you," Jiao Liao said in a coquettish voice, and even had a lustful smile on her face. You didn't sleep with Yang Dingtian. You were just acting to kill me. You didn't sleep with him, did you? Fiery Molten Sand said. Is that important? We want to kill you. Why do you care if I didn't sleep with him? Jiao Liao said. Of course it is important. My woman can't be slept with by other men. Fiery Molten Sand said. Then don't worry. I will definitely make you wear a green hat. Jiao Liao said. I will definitely find a man and let him enjoy every inch of my body. In bed, I will definitely be 100 times more slutty. Fiery Molten Sand immediately roared when he heard this. Immediately, blood spurted out of his mouth. You harmed my father, you harmed my son. You should have known that this day would come. Jiao Liao said coldly. I have been waiting for this day for many years. In my dreams, I want to kill you all the time. Today, I finally get what I want. Fiery Molten Sand immediately looked at Madame Shimin and said, I really regret it. I really regret that I didn't force myself on you. Otherwise, I would have slept with you thousands of times. Impossible, Madame Shimin said coldly. Before you tainted me, I had already become a corpse. I will definitely not betray my husband, even if I am forced. My husband is not like you. He is an indomitable hero, so I will keep my chastity for him. Not like you. Your wife not only wants to make you wear a green hat, but also wants to kill you. Fiery Molten Sand ignored Madame Shimin's words. Instead, he looked directly at Yang Dingtian and said coldly, I regret that I didn't smash you to death just now. Because you are blinded by greed. Yang Dingtian sneered. However, it is still not too late now. It is still not too late. Suddenly, Fiery Molten Sand's face became extremely ferocious and fierce. His eyes seemed to shoot out 2 balls of flames. Let's all die together. Let's all die together. Fiery Molten Sand laughed loudly. His eyes were filled with endless killing intent, and his whole body emitted an extremely dangerous aura. Jiao Liao's expression changed and she said, Not good, he is going to explode his sea of qi. Run. Even if Fiery Molten Sand's cultivation had regressed to a 4-star revered martial artist, his sea of qi was still extremely shocking. Once he exploded, Yang Dingtian and the other 3 basically had no chance of survival. Want to run? It is too late. Fiery Molten Sand roared. You are really stupid. Why didn't you just kill me directly? You actually made me talk so much, and gave me the chance to burn my sea of qi with my heart fire, and explode it. Let's all die together. Let's all die together. Fiery Molten Sand's body emitted a terrifying red light. Then he pounced in the direction of Yang Dingtian and Madame Shimin. Madame Shimin's beautiful face was pale. Fiery Molten Sand was about to explode his sea of qi, and die together with everyone. At this moment, Yang Dingtian sneered. Let's all die together? Stop dreaming. Then, Yang Dingtian waved his hand. Boom! Suddenly, a bright red flame burned out of Fiery Molten Sand's stomach, and directly burned through his sea of qi. What exploding his sea of qi? Don't even think about it. This was the secret move of the 8th grade Devil Flame Saber art, Birth of Demon from the Heart. In the beginning, Yang Dingtian could not use this move, because once it was discovered by the enemy, he could immediately stop it. Right now, Huemo Sha was bent on perishing together with Yang Dingtian. He had completely disregarded the qi vessel's defense. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had cast birth from the devil's heart, and it had burned through his qi vessel and abdomen. Fiery Molten Sand looked at his sea of qi and lower abdomen that were burned through. At this moment, he could no longer feel the existence of his sea of qi. He could clearly feel that his profound veins were rapidly withering. No. Fiery Molten Sand roared unwillingly. Countless amounts of blood spurted out. At this moment, he had completely changed from a 9-star revered martial artist to a useless trash without the strength to truss a chicken. Yang Dingtian stepped forward and withdrew the Birth of Demon from the Heart mystic flame. Originally, Birth of Demon from the Heart could not be stopped or withdrawn. But ever since he had the mystic flame, Yang Dingtian could freely release and withdraw it. Then, he let Fiery Molten Sand consume a Saint Spirit pill. He could not let him die like this. Come, let's go out, Yang Dingtian said indifferently. If you want to leave Raging Storm Valley smoothly, there is still one last test. Yang Dingtian, Jiao Liao, Madam Shiman, and Shiman Lai walked out of the courtyard. At this moment, the courtyard was surrounded by thousands of people, 5 revered martial elders, more than a dozen martial ancestor realm experts, more than 100 martial mystic realm experts, and thousands of barbarian cavalry surrounded Yang Dingtian and the other 3. When Yang Dingtian and the other 3 came out, everyone immediately raised their weapons and aimed at Yang Dingtian. A great battle was about to break out. You killed our valley master? An old man stepped forward and asked. He is not dead yet. Yang Dingtian said. The old man said coldly. You just barged into Raging Storm Valley and killed our valley master. We will definitely trample you into meat paste. You can't do it, Yang Dingtian said indifferently. We have 4 revered martial artists and 5 of you. So, you can't kill us. So, I will make a deal with you here. Release my 1,000 over black blood cavalry, and I will return fiery sand to you. He is already trash. What do we need him for? The old man said coldly. The barbarians were so snobbish and ruthless. If you are smart enough, you should know clearly that your biggest enemy is not me, but your inner circle. Once fiery sand is finished, someone will have to become the new valley master. Don't tell me that you will use up most of your strength to help someone else? Yang Dingtian sneered. The faces of the experts from Raging Storm Valley changed slightly. Of course they knew this logic. Moreover, Yang Dingtian was right. The most important thing now was to fight for the position of valley master. Jiao Liao, where is your son? Yang Dingtian suddenly asked. Jiao Liao was slightly stunned, then shouted. Dummy, bring Wolf Cub out. Oh. In the distance, a strong man responded loudly. After a while, a huge strong man ran over with a dying young man on his back. This strong man was Jiao Liao's most loyal servant called Dummy. Because there was something wrong with his brain, he was always loyal and would never betray. The 18-year-old young man on his back was Zhan Lang. He was once the most outstanding young man in Raging Storm Valley, and the most outstanding son of Fiery Sand. However, he did not look like Fiery Sand's son. He did not look like a barbarian. Instead, he looked like someone from outside the mountains. He was very delicate and pretty. However, he was on the verge of death. He was so thin that only bones were left. When he saw his mother, he could not even open his eyes, let alone speak. It made people suspect that he would die at any time. Seeing her son, Snake Tail's tender tears immediately gushed out. As everyone knows, Jiao Liao's son, Zhan Lang, was seriously injured by a demon beast. His cultivation was completely destroyed, and he was in critical condition. Everyone knows that he can't be saved. Yang Dingtian said. Everyone present nodded. Everyone knew about this matter. Jiao Liao did not know how much she had to pay, but she could not save her son's life. At this time, Yang Dingtian took out a small pill from his arms and stuffed it directly into Zhan Lang's mouth. Then, he directly pushed the pill into Zhan Lang's stomach with his profound qi. He used his profound qi to catalyze the holy water inside and let it permeate throughout his body. In just a few minutes, a miracle appeared. Zhan Lang's pale and terrible skin actually recovered its rosy color. The originally thin skin and flesh gradually recovered its elasticity. A strong vitality was revived in Zhan Lang's body. Everyone was stunned and looked at the miracle in front of them in disbelief. Jiao Liao, who was in ecstasy, was completely shocked. Although she begged Yang Dingtian to save her son, in fact, she did not have much hope in her heart. Who would have thought that Yang Dingtian would be so amazing that he could save her son in such a short time? It was completely a miracle. After opening his eyes, Zhan Lang seemed to have slept for too long. His eyes were confused and finally, his gaze fell on his mother. Little wolf. Snake Tail let out a mournful cry and pounced on Zhan Lang, hugging him tightly in her arms. At this time, all the thousands of people on the field stared blankly at Yang Dingtian. They were completely stunned by Yang Dingtian's means. I don't know who among you will be the final winner, and who will become the new valley master. Yang Dingtian said. But all of this has nothing to do with me. I don't want to interfere in any of your Stormy Valley's affairs. However, no matter who becomes the new valley master, they will be my allies. I will give you a holy water divine pill for free. A divine pill that can bring the dead back to life. As soon as these words came out, Everyone was shocked. With such a pill, it was almost equivalent to having an extra life. Who wouldn't be envious and crazy? Do you want to make this deal? Yang Dingtian said. No matter who becomes the Valley Master of the Stormy Valley, they will be Cloud Sky City's allies. I will immediately give you the divine pill. Do you want to make this deal? Suddenly, the 5 elders present looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with vigilance and danger. Of course, it was not directed at Yang Dingtian, but at each other. The 5 elders represented the 5 biggest forces in the Stormy Valley. The Valley Master of the Stormy Valley would definitely be one of the 5. Therefore, they were each other's biggest enemies. If they killed Yang Dingtian in order to avenge Wuxia, the price they would have to pay was too high. It was not worth it. Moreover, Yang Dingtian's last condition made their hearts burn with passion. Whoever became the Valley Master would be able to obtain a divine pill. At this moment, none of the 5 elders were willing to offend Yang Dingtian. After all, they had 4 martial honorables on their side. It was impossible to kill them. The 5 of them nodded at the same time and said, "We agree." Yang Dingtian stepped forward and high-fived the 5 elders. Happy deal. Then he placed the dazed Wuxia on the ground and said, "I'll return the Valley Master of the Stormy Valley to you. Please release over 1,000 of my Black Blood Cavalry brothers." The 5 elders nodded and took out 5 tokens. They handed them to a barbarian and said, "Release all the Black Blood Cavalry, and return all their weapons and horses." Yes, the barbarian held the token and flew away. After an hour, Yang Dingtian saw the 1,000 over Black Blood Cavalry brothers. Their faces were filled with anger and unwillingness. The reason why they were disarmed was not because they were weak. In fact, even though the Stormy Valley had tens of thousands of barbarian cavalrymen, it was not easy to annihilate the 2,000 over Black Blood Cavalry. However, Madame Shimin had fallen into the hands of Wuxia, and the Black Blood Cavalry did not dare to act rashly. Therefore, their hearts were filled with anger and unwillingness, and they wanted to fiercely charge forward and kill. Therefore, they looked at the barbarian cavalrymen of the Stormy Valley with hostility. However, the moment they saw Yang Dingtian, all the Black Blood Cavalry's eyes were filled with fanaticism and admiration. "Greetings, young lord." All the Black Blood Cavalry knelt down and shouted in unison. Yang Dingtian rode on his horse and shouted, "Brothers, get on your horses. Let's kill our way back to Cloud Sky City. Kill our way back to Cloud Sky City." All the Black Blood Cavalry brothers shouted crazily. Chapter 329. Kill our way back to Cloud Sky City. Kill our way back to Cloud Sky City. The shouts of more than 1,000 Black Blood Cavalry brothers shook the sky. Then, under the leadership of Yang Dingtian, the Black Blood Cavalry left the stormy castle like a tide. The barbarian cavalry in the castle looked at the Black Blood Cavalry brothers with complicated feelings and envy. Although these barbarian cavalry were rough and wild, they could faintly feel that the black torrent in front of them was very different from them. Their opponent's spirit and aura made them feel proud and powerful forever. Of course, any army with faith was incomparably powerful. There was no doubt that the Black Blood Cavalry was an army with faith. Their faith was the omnipotent Yang Dingtian. Of course, these barbarian cavalry were even more unaware of the catastrophe that was about to befall the Stormy Valley. In the Stormy Valley, Wuxia was the most powerful. He was a 9-star marshal revered, and was infinitely close to becoming a grandmaster. Among the many experts in the Stormy Valley, he was far ahead. Therefore, he was able to secure his position as the Valley Master. The remaining 5 elders were all martial revered experts, and their martial arts cultivation was about the same. Then, there would definitely be a fierce battle to determine who would become the new Valley Master. Following this, no one knew how much blood would be shed in the Stormy Valley. No one knew how long it would take for the dust to settle. However, this had nothing to do with Yang Dingtian. His heart was filled with high spirits as he led the Black Blood Cavalry, who were extremely loyal to him, out of the mountain. This time, the crisis in the Stormy Valley only lasted for less than 6 to 7 hours before it was perfectly resolved. It would not delay the grand duel for the position of the city master in 4 days. After leaving the valley, the Black Blood Cavalry stretched along the mountain road. Yang Dingtian flew into the sky and was on high alert for over 100 miles. Yang Dingtian flew in the sky and was on high alert. Suddenly, he realized that the black blood cavalry that was chasing after Yang Dingtian with all their might was Jiao Liao, the seductive Jiao Liao, and his son Zhang Lang. Yang Dingtian descended from the sky, and after the Jiao Liao caught up to him, she dismounted from her horse and knelt in front of Yang Dingtian, saying, Jiao Liao and Zhang Lang beg City Lord Yang Dingtian to take us in. From now on, we will be at your beck and call. Yang Dingtian was stunned. This Jiao Liao had actually requested to join him, and even brought her son along. Madam, why are you like this? The Stormy Valley has no leader now, and it is your ancestors' foundation. It is time for you to develop your grand plans. Your son is very likely to be the future master of the Stormy Valley. Why do you want to follow me? Our futures are uncertain. Yang Dingtian said. Jiao Liao smiled sadly. I betrayed and killed my husband. How can the Stormy Valley tolerate me? If I stay here, my life and little wolf's will be in danger. Of course, if I use my beauty to rely on a man, I believe that I can stand firm and even slowly control the Stormy Valley. However, I, Jiao Liao, am not a licentious and shameless woman. I have enough of this deceitful life. This Stormy Valley is your ancestors' foundation. Are you willing to give it up? Yang Dingtian said. Jiao Liao smiled bitterly. This Stormy Valley is not my ancestors' foundation. My grandfather snatched it from someone else. It was only passed down for one generation before it was snatched away by Ho Rong and Mo Sha. Therefore, I don't have the slightest attachment to this Stormy Valley. I only want to lead Little Wolf and live a peaceful life. Yang Dingtian smiled and said, Peaceful? If you follow me, it might be hard to find peace. This time, I am going to take back the Cloud Heaven City Lord position. My enemy is stronger than me. Furthermore, even if I take back the Cloud Heaven City Lord position, I will face an incomparably strong enemy in half a year. If you follow me, there will be countless battles before I break through to the Grandmaster realm. Jiao Liao smiled and said, The peace I am talking about is a kind of trust, a kind of reliance in the heart. For Madam Shimin, you did not hesitate to risk your life to enter the Stormy Valley and kill Ho Rong and Mo Sha, who were much stronger than you. For more than 1,000 black blood cavalry, you did not hesitate to enter the Stormy Valley's 5 elders to negotiate. This let me know that you will not give up on anyone who follows you. This is more important than anything else. Following that, Jiao Liao said to Zhang Lang, Little Wolf, come kneel. Zhang Lang's expression was slightly complicated as he looked at Yang Dingtian with an unruly gaze. However, he was extremely filial to his mother. If his mother asked him to kneel, he would kneel. Quickly, pay your respects to your master, Jiao Liao said. When these words came out, even Yang Dingtian was shocked. This Zhang Lang was around 18 years old, which was about the same age as Yang Dingtian. He actually acknowledged Yang Dingtian as his master. What was going on? Zhang Lang was also shocked. Although Yang Dingtian had saved him, he only thought that it was because of that pill. Yang Dingtian was so young, but he was actually his master? How could this be? One had to know that Zhang Lang also thought highly of himself, and felt that he was stronger than all the young people in the world. Mother, I reached the martial mystic realm when I was 17 years old. How old is he? He's almost 30 years old, and he's still a martial ancestor. He doesn't have the qualifications to be my master, right? Zhang Lang said. Jiao Liao's expression changed. City Lord Yang Dingtian is not even 22 years old this year, and is a martial ancestor realm expert. Do you think he has the qualifications to be your master? Zhang Lang was slightly startled. He had always thought that Yang Dingtian was almost 30 years old, because everyone called him the City Lord. Furthermore, Yang Dingtian's face was covered with a beard, and he did look older than his actual age. A 22-year-old martial ancestor realm expert was indeed strong enough. Zhang Lang felt a little more admiration in his heart, but he still said proudly, When I'm 21 years old, even if I'm not a martial ancestor realm expert, I'm not far from it. Moreover, when I was young, I was delayed by fire and sand for a long time. Otherwise, it's not certain who's stronger than who. If you want to be my master, you have to be at least a Grandmaster realm expert. As soon as he said this, all the Black Blood cavalry turned around and glared at Zhang Lang. Jiao Liao laughed coldly. City Lord Yang Dingtian was just an enlightener a year and a half ago. In just a year and a half, he almost broke through to martial ancestor realm. Do you think he has the qualifications to be your master? Immediately, Zhang Lang felt as if he had been struck by lightning. A year and a half. From a novice warrior to a 9-star martial ancestor realm? How is this possible? This completely went against the common sense of this world. This completely went against all his knowledge. He, Zhang Lang, had such a high talent. According to the humans outside the mountains, he could be considered an early 8th grade Xianvein talent. He started practicing martial arts at the age of 5, and only broke through to martial profound after more than 10 years. Now there was a person who started practicing martial arts at the age of 20, and almost broke through to martial ancestor realm in a year and a half. How is this possible? This completely subverted the truth of this world. How is this possible? Zhang Lang looked at Yang Dingtian with a mysterious gaze. Yang Dingtian smiled slightly. Looking at this handsome young man, he liked him a little more. Obviously, this young man was not the flesh and blood of Hua Mo Sha. He did not know who his biological father was, but he actually gave him an early 8th grade Xianvein talent. Lady Snaketail, are you sure you want to follow me? Yang Dingtian asked. Please accept me, master. Jiao Liao lay down and touched the ground with her forehead. Good. Yang Dingtian dismounted and helped Jiao Liao up. He said, I am very happy that lady can join Cloud Sky City. Thank you, master. Jiao Liao said happily. Then Yang Dingtian walked in front of Zhang Lang and said, Little wolf, I like you very much. If you are willing, you can become my sword servant. Of course, you have to be willing. How long will it take for you to break through to martial ancestor realm? Zhang Lang suddenly asked. Yang Dingtian smiled and said, When I broke through to martial ancestor realm, I took a lot of shortcuts and was a little impatient. Next, I will take it one step at a time. So I think it will take 3 years to break through to martial ancestor realm. Maybe more, I don't know. Zhang Lang's eyes lit up. You are so powerful. I am willing to be your sword servant. Then, Zhang Lang handed over the sword with both hands and said, Sword servant Zhang Lang greets master. Yang Dingtian took the long sword and gently touched the tip of the sword to the top of Zhang Lang's head. Thank you for your trust. I welcome you to be by my side. Yang Dingtian said with a smile. Zhang Lang was slightly surprised. Is it over? Aren't you going to say something impassioned? Yang Dingtian smiled and turned to mount the horse. Jiao Liao giggled and pulled her son up. After the two of them mounted their horses, Jiao Liao said to Zhang Lang, Little wolf, follow your master. Then, she rode her horse to Madame Shimon's side and bowed. Jiao Liao greets Madame. Madame Shimon's expression was a little complicated, but she still smiled gently. Welcome to Cloud Heaven City. Let's go full speed ahead. Yang Dingtian ordered. Instantly, all the cavalrymen rushed out at full speed. Yang Dingtian suddenly extended his wings and flew into the sky. Zhang Lang on the ground looked at Yang Dingtian in the sky and was instantly filled with admiration. 2 hours later, Yang Dingtian's army met up with the army led by Li Guanong and Mu Lianqing. The moment they saw Yang Dingtian and the others, the anxious Yin Yan let out a sigh of relief. She resisted the urge to throw herself into Yang Dingtian's embrace and went forward to greet Shimin Lai. Big brother! Shimin Lai, who was like a mad lion, now had a look of vicissitudes on his face. He held his sword and bowed. Shimin Lai greets Madam. He wasn't referring to young mistress, but Madam. This was because he had already treated Yang Dingtian as the master of Cloud Heaven City. Everyone met each other one after another and expressed their warm and generous intentions. Yang Dingtian pointed at Jiao Liao and said, This is Madame Jiao Liao. She just joined us. Jiao Liao was very low profile and was very respectful to Yin Yan, Li Guanong and Mu Lianqing. Yang Dingtian pointed at the 500 cavalrymen and said to Shimin Lai, Big brother, these are the warriors that Uncle Mu spent all his wealth to recruit. In the future, I will have to trouble you to train them into an elite army. Yes, I will obey the city lord's orders. Shimen Lai bowed. At this moment, the 500 cavalrymen were suddenly excited. Looking at the black blood cavalry that was close to 2,000 people, their hearts were filled with envy. They hoped that one day, they could also become such a mighty army. Good, continue north to Cloud Heaven City. With Yang Dingtian's command, the 2,000-strong army immediately headed north towards Cloud Heaven City. 2 days later, Yang Dingtian's army was only 300 miles away from Cloud Heaven City. Everyone here was a cavalryman. Because the endurance of the warhorses here far exceeded that of the warhorses on Earth, if they traveled at full speed, they could reach Cloud Heaven City in less than a day. At this moment, they had already entered Cloud Heaven City's territory. However, along the way, they didn't encounter any obstructions or attacks. The forces within Cloud Heaven City's territory didn't come out to welcome them, nor did they attack them. They only looked indifferently at Yang Dingtian's army. Arriving at an abandoned city in a valley that was easy to defend and hard to attack, Yang Dingtian's army entered. Yang Dingtian summoned Madame Shimen, Shimen Lai, Li Guanong, Jiao Liao, and Mu Lianqing for a meeting. There are still 2 days before the City Lord Marshal contest. I need to make a trip 800 miles away from here. All of you will set up camp here and wait for me to return. Yang Dingtian said. He wanted to go to the abandoned mine, kill the Lord of the Abyss, and forge a real soul sword. Yes, everyone replied in unison. Although this was an abandoned castle, Yang Dingtian wasn't too worried about the safety of this army. That was because there were already 4 Grandmaster-level experts here. In terms of top-notch martial strength, they were not much weaker than Yang Yan, Shimen Zhu, and the others. Therefore, even if he left, this army would not be in any danger. Yin Yan opened her mouth. She really wanted to follow Yang Dingtian. At this moment, she really didn't want to be separated from Yang Dingtian for even a minute. However, she only opened her mouth and didn't say anything. Instead, she smiled sweetly at Yang Dingtian. Half an hour later, Yang Dingtian spread his wings and flew towards the west. Chapter 330. This place was only 800 miles away from the abandoned mine, which was about the same as Cloud Sky City. To Yang Dingtian, a distance of 800 miles was as easy as blowing off dust. Flying a few thousand meters in the air, Yang Dingtian flew west at a speed of a few hundred miles per hour. In less than 2 hours, he would reach the abandoned mine. Here, he had to pass through the abyss. This place was the border between Cloud Sky City and Northwest Qin City. It was a few thousand meters deep magma abyss, and there was only one suspension bridge. Moreover, every 100 meters, there was an anti-air sentry post to prevent anyone from flying over on a flying mount. There were also many patrolling flying cavalrymen. But to Yang Dingtian, these were nothing. Using flying mystic skills and the empty spirit mystic wings, Yang Dingtian could fly a few thousand meters in the air. This was a height that the anti-air crossbows and patrolling flying cavalrymen could not reach. Therefore, Yang Dingtian was able to cross the border with ease. Yang Dingtian did not look at Cloud Sky City's last line of defense, the Abyss Castle. More than a year ago, Yang Dingtian and Ningning had passed through here. In the Metal Sword Gathering Inn, the two of them had even discovered an extremely intimate relationship. More than a year ago, Yang Dingtian still had to sneakily disguise himself and pass through this border. At this moment, things were still the same, but people had changed. Sister Ningning's gentle and sweet voice seemed to still be by his ear, but the beauty had disappeared without a trace. No one knew where Shimen Ningning had gone. More than a year ago, after she displayed her power in Cloud Sky City and poisoned countless people, she had completely disappeared from everyone's sight. Yang Dingtian flew in the air and stared at the ground. It was as if he could feel Sister Ningning on a horse, smiling sweetly with him. Soon, Yang Dingtian landed outside the abandoned mine. There was still no one here. It was almost the same as it was a year ago, but it was more desolate, and the weeds were more lush. At that time, Ningning had been waiting for him outside, and she had single-handedly fought 4 assassins sent by Qin Xiaobai. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and walked into the abandoned mine. The abandoned mine was still dark, but with Yang Dingtian's eyesight, he could see clearly even in the dim light. Yang Dingtian easily penetrated 1,000 meters into the mine. More than a year ago, there were only a small number of demonic beasts here, and they were all cleaned up by Yang Dingtian, so they were almost extinct. But now along the way, there were traces of some demonic beasts. However, they were all level 1 and level 2 gold-eating beasts. Back then, Yang Dingtian had a hard time fighting them alone. He could not even defeat a level 2 demonic beast. At this moment, he didn't even need to use half a finger to clean up these low-level gold-eating beasts. However, he wouldn't do that. If it wasn't for the fact that he had no other choice, he wouldn't be willing to take the lives of demonic beasts. However, it was obvious that the youngling sword in his possession had greatly attracted the gold-eating beast's greed. Many gold-eating beasts became restless and sneakily followed him. They even tried to sneak attack Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian smiled slightly. Internal force suddenly burst out from his body. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Suddenly, all the gold-eating beasts fled at lightning speed. They no longer dared to approach within 100 meters of Yang Dingtian. Very quickly, Yang Dingtian arrived at a collapsed area. The collapsed area here was at least a few hundred meters. It was caused by the fiery earth dragon's final madness. Yang Dingtian used A Chao's youngling sword and easily cleared out a passage. He continued to go deeper. Suddenly, he felt that the collapsed area here seemed to have been cleared out by someone, but was later buried again. Yang Dingtian was immediately shocked. Who could it be? Someone actually entered the mine? His heart was immediately filled with uneasiness. Was the 10,000 years old bloody black gold under the unfreezing pond extremely important? If someone came in, what was his purpose? Could it also be 10,000 years old bloody black gold? That would be very bad. Immediately, Yang Dingtian acted as if he was facing a great enemy. He activated all the mystical skills in his body and prepared to fight at any time. Very quickly, Yang Dingtian walked through a few hundred meters of collapsed area. As he continued to go deeper, everything in front of him was already pure white. He was getting closer and closer to the unfreezing pond, so the mine tunnel was also filled with icicles. Very quickly, he reached the end of the mine tunnel. Below there was an incomparably huge cave. It was at least the size of a few football fields. The unfreezing pond was just below. Previously, there were a few cold snakes living in the unfreezing pond. Later on, they were all killed by Yang Dingtian. At this moment, there were actually a few demonic beasts leisurely cruising around in the unfreezing pond. Just that they were all very low-level ice attribute demonic beasts. Yang Dingtian directly flew down from above and dived into the unfreezing pond. Instantly, a burst of cold air attacked him, and the energy released from his body instantly scared the surrounding metal attribute demonic beasts away. Yang Dingtian hugged A Chao's youngling sword and dived down at lightning speed. The unfreezing pond here was much smaller than the central lake in Dongli grassland. Therefore, the cold energy here was also much weaker. More than a year ago, Yang Dingtian was completely unable to endure it. In the end, he completely fainted and became numb. He almost lost his life. And now Yang Dingtian was completely carefree. This bit of cold did not have much harm to him. He dived down 30 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters. At 100 meters, which was the coldest place in the unfreezing pond, Yang Dingtian felt an unbearable chill. At this moment, Yang Dingtian only needed to summon the mystic fire, and he would not feel any cold. But there was no need for that. After passing through 100 meters, the gravity field reversed. Yang Dingtian began to float up. The temperature was getting higher and higher. After floating up 100 meters, Yang Dingtian suddenly jumped out of the water and arrived at the other side of the unfreezing pond. Yang Dingtian directly flew into the purplish-red tunnel and went deeper. So far, he did not see any traces of outsiders entering. What he was most concerned about was whether the 10,000 years old bloody black gold was still there. Yang Dingtian's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already dived down 2,000 meters. The turn in front was an incomparably huge magma abyss. Inside lived an incomparably powerful abyss lord. At this moment, even though he was 100 meters away, Yang Dingtian felt a wave of silence. He could not feel any energy fluctuation at all. Could it be that the Abyss Lord was killed? Young Dingtian was worried. He slowly approached. After going around this turn, the huge magma abyss was in front of him. On the walls of the abyss, the 10,000 years old bloody black gold were inlaid like lanterns. There were 950 of them. Not one more, not one less. Young Dingtian immediately heaved a long sigh of relief. It was good that the 10,000 years old bloody black gold was still there. This was the only guarantee that Young Dingtian could forge soul swords of absolute grade and above. But someone had indeed entered the cave. Why didn't they dig out the 10,000 years old bloody black gold? Could it be that they were killed by the Abyss Lord? Young Dingtian walked forward and glanced at the blood-red magma. He wanted to check if the Lord of the Abyss was still there. The blood-red magma was quiet. He could not see the Abyss Lord at all. Young Dingtian could not help but be slightly stunned. Could it be that the Abyss Lord was killed? That was impossible. Suddenly, Young Dingtian could not help but reach out to touch the 10,000 years old bloody black gold beside him. As expected, the blood-red magma below moved violently. Then a huge eye opened. It was an eye with a diameter of more than 1 meter. The diameter of the eye was 1 meter. It was obvious how huge the Abyss Lord was. Dongfeng Minmi said that this Abyss Lord was the overlord of the demonic beasts within a few thousand miles. It was definitely a 1,000-year-old demonic beast. In terms of pure strength, even a great grandmaster was no match for it. To kill it, one had to use intelligence. However, Master Dongfeng Minmi once said that as long as one had the mystic fire, even if one's cultivation was lower, one could kill the Abyss Lord. Master, I have returned to the abandoned mine. How should I kill the Abyss Lord? Yang Dingtian asked. Just use the mystic fire. Dongfeng Minmi said. Put the mystic fire into the blood-red magma. This Abyss Lord lives by absorbing the fire-type energy in the magma. After your mystic fire enters the magma, it will be automatically absorbed into the body of the Abyss Lord. Then, you can kill it by igniting it in its body. Although its shell is extremely tough and has an extremely huge energy shield, as long as the mystic fire is in its stomach, it can be easily burned to ashes. So simple? Yang Dingtian said in surprise. Yes, it's that simple, Dongfeng Minmi said. And there won't be any danger. The Abyss Lord will almost not fight back. It just needs a longer time. How long will it take? Yang Dingtian asked. About half a month, Dongfeng Minmi said. It needs to swallow enough mystic fire energy before it can be burned to death. Half a month? Yang Dingtian said. If it's half a month, there won't be enough time. In 2 days, I have to return to Cloud Sky City to participate in the martial arts contest for the position of the city lord. Master, is there any way to kill it in 2 days? Dongfeng Minmi said firmly. Absolutely not. This Lord of the Abyss was as powerful as the Millennium Owl in the Horror Mountain Village. It's just that the Millennium Snack is electric type, so it's extremely precious. However, in terms of true energy, the Millennium Snack might not be comparable to this Abyss Lord. In a direct battle, even a Grandmaster is no match for the Abyss Lord. The energy of humans and demonic beasts is completely unmatched. Yang Dingtian immediately panicked. If he couldn't kill the Abyss Lord in 2 days and forge a soul sword, then what was the point of him coming here? In order to ensure his victory in the martial arts contest for the position of the city lord, Yang Dingtian came here to forge a real soul sword, so that he could achieve twice the result with half the effort in the contest. If he needed half a month to kill this Abyss Lord, then it would be too late. Master, is there no other way? Yang Dingtian asked. There's no other way, Dongfeng Minmi said. Yang Dingtian's heart turned cold. What should he do? He wasn't that stupid to rush down and fight with the Abyss Lord. He wouldn't do something like hitting a rock with an egg. Should he give up and return to Cloud Sky City first? He was really unwilling to do that. At this moment, Yang Dingtian suddenly smelled a familiar and soul-stirring fragrance. Then he saw a green skirt. Yang Dingtian's heart suddenly trembled. He said with a trembling voice, Sister Ningning, is that you? Sister Ningning, is that you? Chapter 331. There was no response. There was still only the soul-stirring fragrance. Sister Ningning, are you there? Yang Dingtian shouted. Suddenly, The Lord of the Abyss in the magma below opened its eyes. There was still no response. Yang Dingtian turned and walked toward the green figure. At the corner of the stone wall on the right, he saw a green dress tied to it. There were beautiful words written on the stone wall. Little Tian, before I left, the only thing I was worried about was you. But I didn't know where I could help you. I thought that in a year, you would come here to kill the Lord of the Abyss and excavate 10,000-year-old bloody black gold to forge a soul sword. This Lord of the Abyss is extraordinarily powerful. I was worried that you couldn't kill it, so I condensed a deep-sea mystic poison blood pill. You can find a way to wrap it in flames and lure it to consume it. There were thousands of words, thousands of thoughts, but she didn't know where to start. Don't worry about me. No matter what the future is, no matter who I am, you just need to know that you are the only man I have ever loved. I will love you forever, Ningning. Below the runes there was a green pill. However, this pill was not in a solid form, but in a liquid form. It was condensed from fresh blood. Looking at the beautiful words, and the deep-sea mystic poison condensed from blood, Yang Dingtian's heart was in a mess. He was moved, full of doubts, and full of complicated emotions. In order to help Yang Dingtian, Shiman Ningning was really meticulous. She came here specially, and left this deep-sea mystic poison pill condensed from blood for Yang Dingtian. But who was Sister Ningning? What was her identity? Yang Dingtian held the deep-sea mystic poison pill condensed from blood in the air. This thing was suffused with a terrifying and beautiful green light. He was worried that he couldn't kill this Lord of the Abyss in a short time. With the mystic fire, it would take at least half a month to kill this extremely powerful 1,000-year-old demon beast. Now, with this deep-sea mystic poison condensed from Ningning's blood, killing the Lord of the Abyss became simple. Yang Dingtian released the mystic fire and directly burned the deep-sea mystic poison. Suddenly, the deep-sea Xian poison spread out. The blood inside boiled and vaporized, leaving behind only the faintly discernible deep-sea Xian poison. The mystic flame continued to burn. In the end, the deep-sea mystic poison could no longer be seen. However, this flame had become slightly green. Yang Dingtian controlled the flame and directly fell into the magma below. Unexpectedly, this flame seemed to have an incomparably strong attraction to the Lord of the Abyss. It actually opened its mouth and swallowed the slightly green mystic flame. Yang Dingtian was slightly stunned, but in this way, the speed of killing the abyssal overlords became even faster. After swallowing the poisonous flames, the Lord of the Abyss was startled at first, and then it opened its mouth to spit them out. But at this moment, the poisonous fire in its stomach suddenly exploded, instantly turning into countless green energy that seeped into the abyssal lord's body. The Lord of the Abyss let out an earth-shattering howl. Then, he frantically tried to use the magma to jump up. Its incomparably huge body instantly appeared in front of Yang Dingtian. This Lord of the Abyss was even bigger than the Millennium Owl. Its eyes were more than 1 meter in diameter, and its entire head was dozens of meters long. The body that rushed out of the magma was already more than 200 meters long before it was fully exposed. Such a huge behemoth, even the movie Behemoth Godzilla from the Earth era, was far from comparable. Therefore, its roar alone was enough to shake the heavens and the earth and shake the mountains. Yang Dingtian's scalp went numb, and his whole body trembled. Boom! Before the Lord of the Abyss could completely jump up, its incomparably huge body condensed and froze in the air. Then, at a speed visible to the naked eye, it was quickly petrified. Immediately after, it fell into the magma. Countless streams of magma suddenly shot up into the sky. After falling into the magma, the Lord of the Abyss's entire body was quickly petrified, and it was trapped in the magma, unable to move. Roar! The raging Lord of the Abyss suddenly opened its mouth toward Yang Dingtian and breathed out earth-shattering flames. When it was still a few hundred meters away from Yang Dingtian, he already felt a completely unbearable energy and temperature. Wherever the flames passed, all the cliffs and stone walls were instantly burned into water. Only more than 9,010,000-year-old bloody black gold remained untouched. Looking at the flames rushing toward the sky, Yang Dingtian's body instantly felt as if it was going to be burnt to a crisp. He knew that he absolutely could not resist this terrible flame. He hurriedly summoned the dark profound flame from the soul ring and blocked in front of him. Hopefully this dark profound flame would be useful, otherwise, Yang Dingtian would really be burned alive. The endless flames of the Lord of the Abyss frantically devoured Yang Dingtian, and Yang Dingtian was about to be completely burned to ashes. This flame was completely comparable to the flames of a nuclear explosion, as if it was the devil's fire released from the depths of hell. At this moment, the dark profound flame suddenly became excited and suddenly soared into the sky. The originally thin dark profound flame suddenly opened its mouth. Whoosh! The endless flames were quickly devoured. The dark profound flame was like a space door. After the endless flames were devoured, they instantly disappeared without a trace. Devouring. Endless raging flames frantically entered the darkness of the darkness profound flame. All over the sky, the endless flames were completely devoured by the dark profound flame that was less than 5 inches long. Seeing this scene, Yang Dingtian was completely stunned. This darkness celestial flame was simply too stunning. The Lord of the Abyss below had already entered a state of complete madness. With nearly half of its body petrified, it madly spat out raging flames aimlessly, and then it was continuously devoured by the dark profound flame. Yang Dingtian suddenly thought of something and said, "Master, is the energy flame of a grandmaster stronger, or the energy flame of the Lord of the Abyss stronger?" "Of course it's the energy flame of the Lord of the Abyss. These two cannot be mentioned in the same breath," Dongfang Minmi said. Yang Dingtian said, "If that's the case, then in the future, even if you fight against a grandmaster, as long as you release the dark profound flame, won't you be able to completely devour the opponent's energy attack?" "Of course not," Dongfang Minmi said. "Although the energy of this Lord of the Abyss attack is incomparably huge, it's aimless, and it's purely spitting fire. Therefore, the energy within the unit space is not strong, and the direction is fixed, so it's easy to be intercepted by the dark profound flame. If it's an attack from a human martial artist, it's completely traceless, and your dark profound flame will have a hard time intercepting it in a certain direction." Roar! At this moment, the Lord of the Abyss suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar. Then, the flames that it spat out suddenly turned into a terrifying blue color. Then something even more terrifying happened. These endless blue flames actually spread over the dark profound flame, and suddenly pounced towards Yang Dingtian. Although this dark profound flame was heaven-defying, it was indeed not invincible. As long as the Lord of the Abyss changed its direction, or the energy it spat out became stronger, the dark profound flame would not be able to completely devour it. Run! Dongfang Minmi shouted loudly. Without his master's reminder, when the blue flames came over, Yang Dingtian frantically ran backwards. His speed was incomparably fast, and the distance of 2,000 meters was covered in less than half a minute. But the terrifying blue flames chased closely behind, and were already licking towards Yang Dingtian's back. Yang Dingtian was greatly alarmed. If he was really licked, even with the deep-sea mystic clothes, he would not be able to prevent the fate of being burned to ashes. The counterattack of this Lord of the Abyss before its death was simply too shocking. Quick! Yang Dingtian used all his strength and profound energy to rush towards the unfreezing pool. In an instant, the endless blue flames swallowed everything in the cave. The solid ice in the cave melted instantly, vaporized, and disappeared. The stone walls and countless crystals melted into water in an instant. A few thousand meters of mine tunnel melted in an instant. After Yang Dingtian jumped into the unfreezing pool, he finally avoided the terrifying flame attack. However, he could clearly feel that the temperature of the unfreezing pool was actually rising, and even the position of the unfreezing water was dropping. The blue flames spewed out by the Lord of the Abyss had actually boiled and vaporized the unfreezing pool. It was truly powerful to the point of no return. Yang Dingtian could only continue to dive, and then he was surprised to find that the blue flames had actually entered the unfreezing pool and chased after him. Yang Dingtian frantically dove down, desperately trying to get rid of the blue flames. After diving for nearly 100 meters, Yang Dingtian could clearly feel that the earth-shattering tremors above had ended, and the terrifying blue flames did not continue to chase after him. Yang Dingtian stayed in the unfreezing pool for a while. After confirming that there was no movement above, Yang Dingtian floated up. At this time, only more than half of the unfreezing pool was left, and the temperature was far lower than before. Yang Dingtian jumped out of the pool. At this time, the ground here and the mine tunnel were all flowing with magma. Because the blue flames had burned all the stones into magma, the magma was constantly flowing into the unfreezing pool. Yang Dingtian could not land on his feet. He floated in the air and flew in the direction of the Lord of the Abyss. Along the way, it had been completely destroyed. All he could see was flowing red magma. Soon, Yang Dingtian returned to the magma abyss of the Lord of the Deep Sea. At this time, the Lord of the Deep Sea was already on the verge of death. Its entire body had been petrified, and countless huge cracks had cracked open. Glaring flames were burning from the cracks of its body. Its eyes had been completely petrified, leaving only the last bit of light. Its incomparably huge body was sinking bit by bit. Little Tian, quickly, go and dig out the demon core of the Lord of the Abyss. You have the mystic fire and yin-yang qi transformation technique. You can devour the powerful mystic qi inside. Dongfang Minmi said. Yang Dingtian's eyes lit up. He immediately jumped down, pulled out his youngling sword, and stabbed the head of the Lord of the Abyss. Chapter 332. In the process of falling, Yang Dingtian saw the darkness profound flame floating in the air. At this time, the darkness profound flame was only a little bigger than before, but its color became darker and darker, making people feel intimidated. Just now, he didn't know how much flame energy it had devoured. Yang Dingtian took out the soul ring. In the process of falling, he quickly put the darkness profound flame back into the spatial ring. Unfortunately, this darkness profound flame had not grown up yet. It couldn't be refined into the Qi Si, so he couldn't use it as he wished. Bang! Yang Dingtian fell on the head of the Abyss Lord. However, at this time, the Abyss Lord was already unable to react. Yang Dingtian's sword easily pierced through. If it was in the past, Yang Dingtian was completely unable to pierce through the shell of the Abyss Lord. But with Ah Chao's youngling sword, it was not a problem at all. He quickly cut open the head of the Abyss Lord. Immediately, he saw a fiery red crystal-clear demon core. It was only the size of a fist like an agate. And below the demon core, the brain of the Abyss Lord was quickly petrified at a speed visible to the naked eye. Whoosh! With a slash of the ugly sword, Yang Dingtian easily dug out the demon core. Holding the demon core, Yang Dingtian flew up. Poochie! After the huge Abyss Lord was completely petrified, it finally sank into the magma completely. Yang Dingtian held the red demon core and floated above the magma. What a beautiful demon core! It was completely pure fiery red. But compared to the golden Naga royalty demon core, it was still a lot worse. The Naga royalty demon core seemed to have the universe and stars inside. It was incomparably mysterious. But the demon core of the Abyss Lord in front of him was only beautiful and pure. But it didn't give people a mysterious feeling. Yang Dingtian summoned the million-spirit demon fire, condensed it into a ball, and then suddenly drilled into the demon core. Huff! The million-spirit demon fire easily pierced through the demon core of the Abyss Lord. Then, the red demon core melted little by little, turning into a red energy ball. Boom! In an instant, it turned into an incomparably vigorous profound qi energy, a profound qi that was filled with fire energy. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and quickly circulated the fire transformation art along with the mystic fire. He quickly refined the fire attribute profound energy into pure profound energy, and then quickly swallowed it into his body. In less than half an hour, Yang Dingtian could clearly feel that his qi vessel had started to expand. Clearly, he was about to make a breakthrough. This was because Yang Dingtian's cultivation was very close to that of a martial honor. In addition to his heaven-defying 9 yang profound veins, breaking through to martial honor was extremely difficult for others. However, for Yang Dingtian, as long as he had enough pure profound qi, breaking through to martial honor was a piece of cake. Expand, expand, expand. Yang Dingtian's sea of qi expanded to its limit. Boom! A ball of white light suddenly exploded in front of his eyes, and then everything entered into nothingness. Yang Dingtian had broken through. He had once again broken through to the martial honorable realm. However, this time, Yang Dingtian did not have the time to be excited. This was because the Abyss Lord's demon core was still overflowing with profound energy. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and quickly refined and swallowed it. Time passed by minute by minute. The red demon core in Yang Dingtian's palm shrank little by little and dissipated in the air little by little. At this time, Yang Dingtian could clearly feel it. The energy of the Abyss Lord's demon core and the Naga royalty demon core were completely different. The profound chi energy per unit of time was much less. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, a full 15 hours passed. The energy in this Abyss Lord's demon core was getting weaker and weaker. In the end, the entire demon core was only left with a weak light. The swallowing was over. Unfortunately, after a full 15 hours of swallowing, Yang Dingtian only broke through about half a level. In other words, the profound chi energy contained in this Millennium Abyss Lord's demon core only allowed Yang Dingtian to break through about half a level. However, the Naga royalty demon core allowed Yang Dingtian to break through 4 levels. Moreover, the profound chi energy in it was not exhausted. It could be seen that the energy contained in the Naga royalty demon core was dozens of times more than that of this Millennium Abyss Lord. If the 1,000-year-old Abyss Lord was already so powerful, then how powerful was the Naga clan? Yang Dingtian took a deep breath. At this time, he was already a 1-star martial honorable. He was still half a level away from 2-star martial honorable. Next, it was time to collect the 10,000 years old bloody black gold and forge the real soul sword. Yang Dingtian flew into the air and quickly used his youngling sword to dig out the 10,000-year-old bloody black gold that looked like small lanterns. These 10,000 years old bloody black gold seemed to have a life of its own. Every time he dug it out, he seemed to hear a soft cry full of excitement and reluctance. Soon, Yang Dingtian dug out the remaining 950,000 years old bloody black gold. To be exact, there were 954,000 years old bloody black gold. The weight of these 950,000 years old bloody black gold added together was more than 10,000 pounds, close to 20,000 pounds. Yang Dingtian piled them on the ground and built a beautiful pyramid. Master, I returned the mysterious fire devil hammer to the divine weapons villa. How should I forge the soul sword? Yang Dingtian asked. That mysterious fire devil hammer is useless to you now. Using it to forge your soul sword will only destroy the entire hammer. Dongfang Mimi said. Then how should I forge the soul sword now? First, use the mysterious fire to melt all the bloody black gold, and wrap your youngling sword tightly. Dongfang Mimi instructed. Yang Dingtian released the million spirit demonic fire, and drilled into the bottom of the pyramid made of 10,000 years old bloody black gold. Immediately, the mysterious fire started to burn. Originally, these 10,000 years old bloody black gold that were plucked out had already turned dark. Now that they were burned by the mysterious fire, they turned red again. Merely half a minute later, these 10,000 years old bloody black gold started to melt. The mysterious fire was indeed much stronger than the best quality earth fire. It could melt the 10,000 years old bloody black gold so easily. 3 minutes later, all the 10,000 years old bloody black gold had completely melted. Yang Dingtian used his mysterious qi to sprinkle the 10,000 years old bloody black gold on the youngling sword. Immediately, the youngling sword became longer and thicker and bigger. Finally, 900,000 years old bloody black gold completely melted and wrapped around the youngling sword. It turned into a giant sword that was more than 10 meters long and 1 meter wide. At this moment, this treasure sword weighed close to 20,000 pounds. In this world, no one would use such a heavy weapon. Next, it's time to truly forge the soul sword, Dongfang Minmi said. Next, you have to condense the mysterious fire's energy to the extreme. Then, you have to force out all the impurities in this giant sword and burn them. After refining it to the extreme, you have to use your mysterious qi and mysterious fire to grind the treasure sword and turn it into a true soul sword. Yang Dingtian's heart was suddenly filled with excitement. A true soul sword was about to be born from his hands. What grade would it be? He was incomparably looking forward to it. Chapter 333. This nearly 20,000 kilogram giant sword floated in the air. It was completely edgeless, but it was domineering and awe-inspiring. Yang Dingtian even had an impulse to stop forging and directly grab this 10-meter-long giant sword to fight. If it was in a large-scale exhibition, he would really kill gods and Buddhas who blocked his way. With a sword, he was afraid that hundreds of people would be turned into minced meat. However, this kind of flashy thing could only be thought of. He was not Sun Wukong holding a 20,000 kilogram weapon to fight. Yang Dingtian began to condense the mystic fire, condensing it like never before. He drew out the mystic fire, and then poured all his mystic qi into it. Boom! Suddenly, the bright red flame soared hundreds of meters into the air. Although the momentum was not as shocking as the Abyss Lord's giant flame of a few thousand meters, it was still extremely shocking. Then this 100-meter mystic fire began to condense. When it condensed to only 1 foot, it was already extremely dazzling. Even ordinary martial artists could not directly stare at it, otherwise, they would be directly blinded. This bright red light reached the extreme and completely turned into a dazzling white, even more dazzling than the sun in the sky. Go! Yang Dingtian suddenly shouted. The mystic fire in his hand shot out. Boom! The mystic fire fiercely hit the nearly 20,000 kilogram giant sword, and countless sparks burst out, like a giant firework erupting. These were the impurities in the giant sword. However, before these impurities completely dissipated and fell to the ground, Yang Dingtian suddenly used his mystic qi to gather these impurities under his feet. Then, Yang Dingtian condensed his mystic qi again, and then suddenly bombarded. Every time the mystic fire bombarded, it was not inferior to a powerful mystic skill attack. Therefore, with Yang Dingtian's cultivation, he could only sustain 10 bombardments, and then the mystic qi in his body was completely exhausted. Yang Dingtian hurriedly took a mystic gathering pill, and then closed his eyes to absorb the mystic gathering pill's mystic gathering pill. After 15 minutes, the mystic qi in Yang Dingtian's qi si was filled again. Boom! Yang Dingtian launched another mystic flame attack. Every time, he would condense the mystic flame to the extreme. Then, like Mars crashing into Earth, he would fiercely smash the sword, forcing out the impurities in the huge sword and burning them. Merely 10 minutes later, the 10 rounds of profound fire bombardment ended, and Yang Dingtian had exhausted his profound energy once again. At this moment, there was only less than 2,500 kilograms of weight left in the 20,000 kilogram greatsword. His size had also shrunk by 3/4. The impurities of the giant sword under Yang Dingtian's feet had also piled up into a small hill. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and began to devour all the battle profound energy around him. There was no doubt that the profound qi here was extremely dense, especially for battle profound qi. In addition, Yang Dingtian's body was special. Therefore, under normal circumstances, it would take a full 4 to 5 hours to fill the sea of qi. However, Yang Dingtian only needed 2 hours to fill the sea of qi to the brim. After filling it to the brim, Yang Dingtian repeated the previous mystic fire bombardment. Just like that, the obsidian flame bombarded him again and again. Time passed by minute. After a full 20 hours, Yang Dingtian had already carried out a total of 11 mystic fire bombardments. At this moment, the entire greatsword's weight was less than 1/20th of its original weight. It was only about 400 kilograms. Moreover, its length was only about 7 feet. From the looks of it, it indeed looked like a normal and awe-inspiring treasure sword. However, the forging was not over yet. Next was the most crucial refinement. Just the mystic fire bombardment alone was not very effective. Yang Dingtian condensed the mystic fire to the extreme, and then calcined it inch by inch. The sword embryo was completely burned into red-black gold water, which dripped down bit by bit. Below, he had to use his other hand to catch the dripping black gold water, and condense it into a treasure sword again. This could be said to be the most crucial step in forging a soul sword. The grade of a soul sword basically depended on this procedure. The success of this procedure was related to one's cultivation to a certain extent, but it was not the most important. It was related to the mystic fire the most, followed by the grade of the sea of qi and mystic veins. Furthermore, the entire process could not be disturbed at all. Yang Dingtian held his breath and calcined the sword embryo bit by bit. He watched it turn into red water bit by bit, dripping down bit by bit. Then, Yang Dingtian used the mystic qi in his other hand to catch it and float in the air. The calcination was extremely slow and difficult. Not long later, Yang Dingtian's body broke out in sweat. This sword embryo melted inch by inch, dripping inch by inch. An hour passed. 2 hours passed. 3 hours passed. 4 hours passed. Yang Dingtian's sweat had almost dried up. His entire body was so dry that it was about to split open, and his mystic qi seemed to be completely exhausted. However, there were still 2 inches of sword embryo that had not melted. However, his mystic qi was about to be exhausted. Master, why is it like this? I've heard that although the reconstruction of the sword body is extremely important, it can be completed without even half of the mystic qi being exhausted. Why is it that my mystic qi is completely exhausted, and the reconstruction of the sword body is not over yet? Yang Dingtian asked in his heart. Dongfang Minmi was speechless. After a long while he said, the higher the grade of the soul sword, the slower the reconstruction of the sword body. You have the heaven and earth mystic fire, and the 9 yang mystic veins. According to normal circumstances, 1/3 of the mystic qi is enough for you to complete the reconstruction of the sword body. Now that the mystic qi is exhausted, it is still not completed. I really can't imagine how high the grade of this soul sword will be. This is a good thing. But if the mystic qi is exhausted, and the reconstruction of the sword body is not completed, what should we do? There is only one chance. Yang Dingtian. If the mystic qi is exhausted and the reconstruction of the sword body is interrupted, what will happen? The grade of the soul sword will be greatly reduced. That is a complete waste of God's gift. Dongfang Minmi sighed. I thought that your cultivation is enough to forge the soul sword, but I didn't think that the grade of your soul sword would be so shockingly high, so your mystic qi cultivation is not enough. What should I do? Yang Dingtian asked. Dongfang Minmi said, you need to make the decision yourself. Yang Dingtian was silent for a moment then said, I know. In any case, the reconstruction of the sword body could not be interrupted. Yang Dingtian suddenly gritted his teeth and made a decision. He had already done this before. Now he had to do it again. Last time he fought to live from the brink of death. He used the heart flame to burn his qi si, and turned it into golden mystic qi to defeat Song Yu's mystic fire dragon. This time, Yang Dingtian wanted to burn his qi si again, turn it into mystic qi, and pour it into the mystic fire to continue forging the soul sword. After making up his mind, Yang Dingtian immediately used it. The heart flame directly burned the inner wall of the qi si. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's body shook violently. The energy in his body shook violently and became restless. It was as if a nuclear bomb was about to explode. At this time, it was the most dangerous time. The qi si could explode at any time. Yang Dingtian was very careful. The heart flame burned the golden qi si bit by bit. Boom! Suddenly countless golden mystic qi surged out. Whoosh! In an instant, Yang Dingtian's mystic fire turned golden. In fact, Yang Dingtian's mystic fire had already penetrated the golden color, because it contained the Naga royalty's mystic qi. At this time, he directly used the golden mystic qi to burn the mystic fire. The entire mystic fire was completely dazzling golden. At the same time, the speed of the reconstruction of the sword body suddenly accelerated. Originally, the sword embryo was melting bit by bit. According to the normal speed, the remaining 2 inches would take at least more than an hour. And in this more than an hour, how much qi si would be burned, and how much his cultivation would degrade? Yang Dingtian had no idea, and no way to think about it. However, he would at least fall by about 2 levels. However, for the sake of the grade of the soul sword, he had to fight. But he did not expect that after the golden mystic chi was added to the mystic fire, the progress would suddenly accelerate. After only a dozen seconds, the remaining 2 inches of the sword embryo had completely melted and dripped down. Below him, the black gold water condensed into a sword once again. This treasure sword was only 4 feet and 3 inches long. It was the same length as a normal treasure sword, but it was slightly longer. However, the treasure sword was still very thick. It was more than 2 fingers thick. At this time, the treasure sword was already 80% complete. The next thing to do was to forge it into shape. At this time, the treasure sword was still blunt. Young Dingtian first closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. Once again, he swallowed the battle mystic chi and let the treasure sword float in front of him. His luck was really good. When he burned the chi si just now, he was prepared to fall by 2 levels. He did not expect that it was just a step away. The loss of the chi si cultivation was almost insignificant. At this time, he was still a 1-star intermediate martial venerable. 2 hours later, Yang Dingtian filled the battle mystic chi again. Then, he condensed the mystic fire again and turned it into a golden energy hammer. Then, he continued to inject mystic chi into the energy hammer formed by the mystic fire. In the end, the hammer shone with golden light. It was dazzling, as if it was real and full of texture. Boom! Yang Dingtian smashed down fiercely. There was a loud sound and a burst of light. Suddenly, a layer of the thick sword blade was flattened. It was exactly the same as a normal treasure sword. However, the soul sword needed to use the mystic fire as the hammer, and the air as the anchor to smash down crazily. The more Yang Dingtian smashed, the faster he got. Ultimately, all that was left was an afterimage. The golden mystic fire hammer was like a meteor smashing down crazily on the treasure sword. 10 times, 100 times, 10,000 times. There was no limit to this kind of crazy forging until the mystic chi was exhausted. This kind of crazy forging, in addition to letting the treasure sword finally form, could also force out the last and most difficult impurities. Bang bang bang. Countless smashes. Yang Dingtian completely closed his eyes and followed his feelings to smash. He had no idea what his treasure sword had become. Bang! The last smashed down. The mystic fire dissipated, and the heart fire returned. Inside Yang Dingtian's chi vessel there was no one. It was completely empty. Yang Dingtian opened his eyes and saw his treasure sword at first glance. In an instant, he was completely stunned, shocked, trembling and trembling. Is this the soul sword that I forged with my own hands? What kind of rank would it be? Chapter 334. Yang Dingtian had seen 2 completed soul swords. One was Song Yu's, and the other was Shimen Wuya's. The remaining ones were Dongfang Bingling and Dugafeng Wu's fledgling swords. Song Yu's soul sword was extremely beautiful, like a pool of autumn water. As for Shimen Wuya's sword, it was simple and mysterious. As for Yang Dingtian's soul sword, no words could be used to describe it. It gave people the feeling that it was completely transparent. From the sword hilt to the body, it was completely integrated, sparkling and translucent. It was as though it was created by the heavens, and there were no traces of forging. Actually, it wasn't transparent. For some reason, it might be because it was extremely pure, and it gave people the feeling that it was transparent. Song Yu's soul sword was as pure as water. However, water wasn't absolutely pure, and there were still impurities. Yang Dingtian's sword was completely like a ray of light. That's right, it was like a ray of light, and it didn't seem to have any substance. Furthermore, it was golden in color. That's right, a golden color that was even more dazzling than gold. During the Earth era, there was a type of iPhone that was considered nouveau riche gold, and it was said to be dazzling. However, compared to the golden color in front of him, it was completely like a pile of yellow mud. Yang Dingtian's soul sword that was like a ray of light was truly so dazzling that it could blind people's eyes. It was so dazzling that during a battle, it was very likely that the enemy's attention would be completely attracted to it, and they would forget to fight. This was a treasure sword that Yang Dingtian had completed by himself. Every piece of bloody black gold was dug out by himself, and every hammer was hammered down by himself. Now it had finally become the most perfect work of art. After admiring it for over 10 minutes, Yang Dingtian asked, "Master, what grade should my treasure sword be?" Dongfang Minmi saw the image of this treasure sword in Yang Dingtian's mind and was speechless for a long time. After a long time, he opened his mouth and said, "What grade? Who knows?" "Huh?" Yang Dingtian asked. "What do you mean?" Dongfang Minmi said, "My soul sword is a 1-star peerless soul sword. At that time, I already felt that it was perfect. I felt that there wouldn't be a more outstanding soul sword in this world. But in front of your treasured sword, I can clearly feel that my soul sword is completely dim." Dongfang Minmi continued, "Some people have categorized the soul swords into different grades: supreme grade, and imperial grade. Every grade is divided into 10 stars. Then will my soul sword be of the emperor grade?" Yang Dingtian asked. Maybe there isn't even a sovereign grade. The grade of a soul sword was different from one's martial cultivation. One had to climb through the threshold. The emperor grade was the pinnacle of perfection, the pinnacle of the universe. I think that there shouldn't be any real emperor grade. It's just an unreachable ranking set by martial artists. Dongfang Minmi said, "But if there really is an emperor grade soul sword in this world, then if your soul sword isn't included, I feel that the term emperor grade is meaningless." Yang Dingtian laughed. "Yes, in the Earth era, it was said that there was no pure gold. The highest purity of gold could be 9,999%. But no matter how many nines there were, it would never reach 100%. But the soul sword in front of him undoubtedly made Yang Dingtian extremely satisfied. Okay, don't be intoxicated. There's still one last procedure left. This soul sword will truly belong to you," Dongfang Minmi said. The last procedure of the soul sword was the soul engraving. When forging the sword, there was also an engraving procedure, which was to let the treasured sword recognize its master. At that time, blood was directly sprinkled on the treasured sword, and then it was burned and refined by the supreme great earth fire. And the soul sword's recognition of its master was even more profound. It was directly the engraving of the soul, although the soul sword's recognition of its master had no use in increasing the grade of the soul sword. It was undoubtedly the most dangerous stage. Even if there were mistakes in the previous procedures, at most the soul sword's grade would be a little lower. But this soul sword would not have any problems. But once the final soul engraving failed, it meant that this treasured sword would never recognize you as its master. It would never become a real soul sword. It could only be an incomparably sharp and terrifying sword with the addition of Xianqi. And the soul engraving was also very simple. It was to cause the energy in the soul sword to tremble and resonate, and establish some kind of compatibility and connection with the master's spirit. Once successful, this soul sword would belong to you forever. Even if others took it away, it would be useless. They might even be hurt by the backlash. Therefore, in order to cause the soul sword to resonate and tremble, there were many ways. But most of them used an extreme suicide method, because this method had the highest chance of success. The method was as follows. The master gave up all defense and threw the soul sword into the air, letting the soul sword fall directly to the top of his head. At this time, the soul sword already had an extremely weak consciousness. Generally speaking, it would not have any active reaction, because this consciousness was extremely weak. It was not even comparable to the consciousness field produced by a plant. But when it found that it was about to kill its master, and had no strength to stop it, it would desperately try to stop itself. It would tremble and resonate with its master's consciousness. According to Dongfang Minmi, the soul engraving of the soul sword had a very high failure rate in the past, even more than 80%. Later on, some heaven-defying genius invented this suicidal awakening method. As a result, the success rate of the soul engraving increased greatly, exceeding 50%. Even so, half of the soul engraving still failed. Some people were unwilling to accept this, and even died under their own soul swords. This was because this suicidal soul engraving had to be completely real. As long as one took the initiative to have a trace of defense, it would become an incomparably huge wall, firmly blocking the soul sword's consciousness outside. And the success of the soul engraving mainly depended on the youngling sword. the better the youngling sword forged by the master, and the closer the relationship with the master, the higher the success rate of the soul engraving. Of course, a shameless soul sword like Zhao Wuji's couldn't be counted. After all, his wasn't even considered a real soul sword. Those fake soul swords that used demon cores as sea spirit crystals didn't need to care too much about the soul engraving. The soul engraving stage was no problem for Yang Dingtian. When it was still a youngling sword, it already had a muddled consciousness. This consciousness even knew attachment, excitement, and sadness. It would often communicate with Yang Dingtian mentally. Therefore, Duge Fengwu had always said that Yang Dingtian's youngling sword was abnormal. When it was still a youngling sword, it already had consciousness. Other people's artifact swords wouldn't have consciousness even if they were soul swords. Therefore, the final soul engraving was something that Yang Dingtian could complete with his eyes closed. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and threw the soul sword up. Then, he waited for the soul sword's soul to tremble. His entire body had completely relaxed. At this moment, even if a child took a stone and smashed it at the back of Yang Dingtian's head, it might be able to smash Yang Dingtian to death. But the truth made Yang Dingtian tremble, because the soul sword didn't react. Really, the soul sword didn't have any reaction. The golden soul sword fell from 80 meters and pierced towards Yang Dingtian's head. But the soul sword's consciousness didn't have any reaction. What was going on? Yang Dingtian's relationship with the youngling sword was obviously very close. It was completely like his own child. And that youngling sword's consciousness was clearly like a baby. It could be happy, depressed, excited, and even act spoiled. How could this be? This suicidal soul engraving was actually useless. The soul sword still continued to fall. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but be scared out of his wits. And he didn't dare to activate his defense at all. Once he activated his defense, it would be a complete distrust of the soul sword. No matter how close their relationship was, it would be completely destroyed. There was only one chance for this soul engraving. And there was only one chance for this kind of loyalty test. If he succeeded, the soul sword would be loyal to him for life, and would live and die with him. If he failed, he would lose the opportunity forever. Time passed quickly, but in Yang Dingtian's mind, it passed extremely slowly. As if every millisecond was a painful ordeal. He could clearly feel the wind from the soul sword's stab. It was getting closer and closer to his head, but he didn't know how close it was. Perhaps in the next moment, it would directly pierce through his head. At this moment, Yang Dingtian was incomparably worried about his gains and losses. He even felt that it was because the Naga royal tribe's profound chi energy in the soul sword had suppressed the soul sword's divine sense. And this soul sword was no longer that intimate Acho youngling sword? If this was the case, if he didn't defend himself, he could only be killed by his own soul sword in vain. Perhaps, this was also an alternative revenge of the Naga royalty. Little Tian, quickly defend, quickly give up. Dongfang Mimi exclaimed. No, if it wants to kill me, let it kill me. Yang Dingtian completely relaxed all his mind, waiting for the last moment to happen. Whether this last moment was the success of the soul engraving, or his head was directly pierced through. Whoosh! The soul sword, like a golden light, directly pierced the top of Yang Dingtian's head. The incomparably sharp tip of the sword directly pierced the flesh on the top of Yang Dingtian's head. Yang Dingtian's mind instantly went blank, as if his consciousness soul instantly and completely dissipated, as if he directly experienced the feeling of his consciousness being destroyed. However, at this moment, the soul sword directly floated above Yang Dingtian's head. The tip of the sword touched Yang Dingtian's scalp, but it didn't penetrate even a millimeter. Then the soul sword violently trembled, violently trembling. Immediately, Yang Dingtian felt that a special spiritual energy in his mind suddenly flew out, drilling into the soul sword. This spiritual energy was incomparably mysterious and incomparably powerful. In an instant, the soul sword once again erupted with incomparably bright light, and the trembling above Yang Dingtian's head became even more intense. After an unknown period of time, Yang Dingtian finally woke up. Just now, his soul and consciousness were directly lost, because he thought that he was killed by the soul sword. Countless thoughts gradually returned to his mind. Yang Dingtian found that the soul sword was lying on his leg, quiet and gentle, as if the thing that stabbed down just now was not it. The soul engraving was successful. This unprecedented soul sword finally officially recognized its master. However, this was really a soul engraving that was deeply engraved into the bone. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath. At this moment, there was a pile of red dust under his feet, emitting a flame-like glow. Yang Dingtian visually estimated that it was no less than 500 kilograms. These were all the impurities of the 10,000-year-old bloody black gold. Yang Dingtian lifted his soul sword, 99 kilograms. That's right, only 99 kilograms. The fledgling sword that he forged with 45 pieces of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold still had a few hundred kilograms, and this soul sword forged with 999 pieces of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold was only 99 kilograms. And these 500 kilograms of impurities that were refined, although they were called impurities, were completely excellent treasures. It was even better than ordinary bloody black gold. After all, this was more than 500 kilograms of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold that was refined from 20,000 kilograms. This 500 kilograms of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold impurities, other than forging a scabbard for himself, was just enough to forge a dozen or so treasured swords. Although it could not become a soul sword, in terms of celestial chi and sharpness, it was believed that no treasured swords in this world could match it. Yang Dingtian was confident that these were enough to become the world's top divine weapon. However, time was tight, and Yang Dingtian was now unable to forge them into treasured swords. Next, Yang Dingtian used the fastest time to draw 20 kilograms of bloody black gold ashes, and used celestial fire to forge a scabbard. His treasured sword was too eye-catching, so it was better to hide it in the scabbard most of the time. Half an hour later, Yang Dingtian carried 500 kilograms of bloody black gold ashes, flew out of the abandoned mine, and returned to Cloud Sky City. At this moment, there were less than 8 hours before the martial arts contest for the position of the city lord. Chapter 335. More than 1,000 caddies of 10,000 years old bloody black gold ashes were not much in volume, enough for Yang Dingtian to put into the space ring. But it would make the space ring seem more crowded. At this time, Yang Dingtian flew towards the abandoned castle at a speed of 400 to 500 miles per hour. In the air, Yang Dingtian held the soul sword, still surging with emotions. This was truly a perfect artifact sword. It was even more perfect than the artifact swords that Yang Dingtian had used and seen before. Master, what name do you think should be given to this sword? Yang Dingtian, Dongfang Mimi smiled and said, "This sword is yours, so you will be the one to name it." Yang Dingtian thought of several names: Flowing Light, Star, Red Sun, and so on. But he felt that they were not satisfactory. Flowing Light was too ordinary and not domineering. The stars were too empty. Red Sun was domineering enough, but it was not mysterious enough. But then, Yang Dingtian's mind suddenly emerged an even more parody name. Xianyuan Sword, the legendary ancient divine weapon of the Earth era. And it was also a very famous name in the game. All this while, Yang Dingtian's life had been too heavy and solemn. So let's spoof it. It's settled, you'll be called Xianyuan Sword. Yang Dingtian. Then he clearly felt a surge of divine sense coming from the sword. However, there were two emotions vaguely. One was like a child cheering, and the other was indeed a disdainful snort. Yang Dingtian was stunned. What was this situation? Inside his treasured sword, there were actually two kinds of emotions. Just what was going on? But then, the divine sense in the sword quieted down. After Yang Dingtian tried many times, the sword no longer had any emotions. Master, how much profound chi does my soul sword have? Yang Dingtian asked. I thought you would never ask this question. Dongfang Minmi smiled and said, the profound chi of a superb soul sword will reach 99%. How much do you think your sword can reach? I don't know, Yang Dingtian said. I don't know how much it is, Dongfang Minmi said. But it's definitely more than 150%. Ah, Yang Dingtian exclaimed. A 150% xianqi bonus was completely shocking and unheard of. Even the legendary swords in the history of the chaotic world did not have such a heaven-defying xianqi bonus. Master, that soul sword of yours at that time, how much profound qi did it add? Yang Dingtian asked. About 80%. Dongfang Minmi said. About half of your team. A 150% increase in profound qi. Even without a sword soul, the power was incomparably shocking. Yang Dingtian was currently a 1-star martial honorable. In addition to the 150% increase in Xian Qi, his attack power had completely surpassed that of a 2-star martial honorable. Yang Dingtian was overjoyed. However, more than a year ago, Yang Dingtian had thought of refining a sword soul before the Grand Martial Arts competition. At that time, ignorance was bliss. It was completely impossible. Compared to others, Yang Dingtian was already very impressive. Other people's soul swords would need at least 10 years to have a clear consciousness that could communicate with its master. Yang Dingtian's soul sword already had a consciousness, which was equivalent to saving Yang Dingtian almost 10 years. Originally, he wanted to refine the soul of the Lord of the Abyss and use it to cultivate the soul sword. In the end, there was no time at all. Most importantly, the soul sword did not have Xian vein essence and sea spirit crystal. So even if it was refined after devouring the soul of the Lord of the Abyss, the energy could not be stored in the soul sword. Therefore, from the looks of it, this soul sword could only be used as a peerless treasure sword with profound qi. Just over an hour later, Yang Dingtian flew back to the abandoned castle. At this time, close to 2,000 Black Blood cavalry and 500 new cavalrymen had all finished forming up. Madame Shimin, Shimin Lai, Li Guanong, and the rest had all mounted their war horses and were ready to set off at any time. At this time, the sun had just risen. It was really dawn. When Yang Dingtian flew over, everyone on the ground cheered loudly. It was thunderous. Long live Yang Dingtian. Long live the city lord. Yang Dingtian descended from the sky and rode on the leading white horse. He shouted, "Let's go!" Instantly, more than 2,000 cavalrymen rushed out of the abandoned castle like swords and headed north to Cloud Sky City. With the war horses galloping at full speed, the distance of less than 300 miles could be covered in less than 5 hours. Along the way, it was the most direct territory of Cloud Sky City, and they had to pass through 4 to 5 large castles. However, at this time, there were not many warriors guarding the castles. It seemed that the warriors with slightly higher cultivation in the castles had all rushed to Cloud Sky City to watch the battle. After all, today was the most important day for Cloud Sky City. Originally, Yang Dingtian could have directly bypassed these castles, but Yang Dingtian did not. He chose to pass through them. These castles were the most direct forces of Cloud Sky City. He had to openly announce to everyone that he was back. After an hour, Yang Dingtian arrived at Cloud Sky City's first guardian castle, Heavenly Stone Castle. This castle was about 500 acres. Normally, there would be less than 1,000 warriors guarding it. If there was a battle, 4,000 to 5,000 soldiers could be stationed at any time. He led a few thousand cavalrymen and rushed to the front of the castle. He took the lead and shouted, "The successor of Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian, will lead the army past Heavenly Stone Castle and open the gates." The few warriors on the city wall were slightly stunned. Most of the warriors had a fanatical look in their eyes when they first saw Yang Dingtian. After all, they had seen the scene of Yang Dingtian defeating Qin Shaobai with their own eyes. They were very clear about Yang Dingtian's peerless talent and unyielding character. Therefore, most of the warriors in Cloud Sky City admired and worshipped Yang Dingtian. Because Yang Dingtian had repeatedly created impossible miracles, they supported Yang Dingtian to become the new Cloud Sky City lord from the bottom of their hearts. In the past year, in order to brainwash the people of the territory, Yang Yan and the others had done everything possible to slander Yang Dingtian. Not only did they say that Yang Dingtian was a spy of the evil ways, but they also said that Yang Dingtian's life was extremely promiscuous, and he did not even let his own mother-in-law go. However, this kind of brainwashing was not very useful. After all, the warriors of Cloud Sky City clearly knew what kind of person Yang Dingtian was. Especially after defeating Qin Shaobai, Yang Dingtian, Shimin Ju, and the others had called a deer a horse and wanted to directly kill Yang Dingtian. This was still fresh in the minds of many warriors. On top of Heavenstone Castle, an officer walked out and said loudly, "Yang Dingtian, you have already been expelled from Cloud Sky City. You are not allowed to pass through Cloud Sky City. If you force your way through, that is an act of war. I have the right to kill all of you without mercy." Without a doubt, the officers of the various castles in Cloud Sky City had all been replaced by Yang Yan and Shimanju's direct subordinates. Therefore, these people were full of hostility towards Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian's expression turned cold. That day, the successor of the hidden sect Nameless clearly stated at the Tiando League's Northwest meeting that I, Yang Dingtian, am not a spy of the evil ways. Furthermore, I am one of the successors of Cloud Sky City. This was passed by the Tiando League meeting. Are you going to overturn it? The officer said coldly, I don't care about the Tiando League meeting. I only know that you, Yang Dingtian, are a traitor of Cloud Sky City. If you want to pass through this door, it's very simple. Just kill me. You're not afraid of death. Yang Dingtian sneered. I'm not afraid of death, the officer said with a cold smile. Pooh. Before he could finish his words, he spat out a mouthful of blood. A sharp sword directly pierced through his heart. Under his incredulous gaze, the officer fell from the top of the city wall. Behind him, a warrior with a full beard held a blood-stained sword in his hand. After killing the officer, the warrior behind him directly went down the castle and opened the city gate. Ling Zhen, the former vice-captain of Heavenstone Castle's cavalry, greets the young master. The bearded warrior led a dozen warriors and knelt behind the city gate. It was obvious that this person was a direct subordinate of Yang Dingtian, who had been purged. That was why he was so determined to support Yang Dingtian. He directly pulled out his sword and killed without considering any other options. Get on the horse and follow me back to Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian ordered. Yes, Ling Zhen said loudly. A few minutes later, a cavalry team of nearly 100 people followed behind Yang Dingtian. When they left the second castle, Yang Dingtian's team had increased by nearly 200 people. When they left the third castle, Yang Dingtian's team had increased by another 200 people. When they left the fourth castle, Yang Dingtian's team had increased by another 300 people. The fifth castle was the largest Black Blood Castle. Here the city gate was wide open. However, all the warriors stared coldly at Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian didn't recognize any of these warriors, because none of them were from Cloud Sky City. 5 hours later, Yang Dingtian arrived at the foot of Cloud Sky Mountain. The majestic Cloud Sky City on the mountain was already in sight. It still stood on the mountain peak like a giant beast. Looking at Cloud Sky City on the mountain, Yang Dingtian didn't stop, and immediately ordered his troops to go up the mountain. At this moment, the army behind him had already reached more than 3,000 people. Halfway up the mountain, when they were less than 10 miles away from Cloud Sky City, suddenly, the sound of hurried horse hooves could be heard. A valiant warrior led dozens of horses and rushed over. When he saw Yang Dingtian's army, he didn't seem to have any intention of slowing down. Yang Dingtian continued to rush up the mountain. Both sides didn't give way and were about to collide. Whoosh! The leader of the warriors was enraged. When he was about to collide with Yang Dingtian, he pulled on the reins and stopped less than a meter away from Yang Dingtian. The leader of the warriors took off his helmet, revealing his handsome and cold face. Shiman Nu, the owner of the Abyss Castle, Shiman Wuxia's third most outstanding godson. Madam, Yin Yin, big brother, Shiman Nu is here to welcome you. Shiman Nu bowed to Shiman Lai, Yin Yin and Madam Shiman. However, he acted as if he didn't see Yang Dingtian at all. Immediately, the people behind Yang Dingtian were enraged. They looked at Shiman Lai with murderous eyes. Shiman Lai, Madam Shiman, and Yin Yin also ignored Shiman Nu. Shiman Lai stepped forward and said coldly, Young master is entering the city. Unrelated people don't block the way. Young master? Him. Shiman Nu sneered. Boss, if you were the one fighting for the position of Cloud Sky City Lord, there would be some hope. Just him? Forget it. Yang Dingtian looked at Shiman Nu and said indifferently, Wait, are you going to participate in the martial arts competition? Of course, Shimin Nu said with his head held high. His eyes were filled with pride and confidence. Because this person was Lung Ao, and was in the Abyss Castle all year round. He didn't have much contact with the people of Cloud Sky City. Therefore, very few people knew what his cultivation was like. Then there's no need to talk nonsense. Let's meet in the martial arts field later, Yang Dingtian said indifferently. Haha. Shimin Nu laughed. I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to enter the city, so I came to lead the way. Cloud Heaven City is no longer the same as before. I'm afraid that you'll be chased away halfway. It won't look good for everyone, and the world will think that we're intolerant. Before the competition even starts, you'll be chased away. Yang Dingtian smiled. Then I'll have to trouble you to lead the way. Haha. Shimin Nu laughed wildly again. Let's go. I'll bring you into the city. Perhaps this will be the last time you enter Cloud Sky City. Either you'll never come back, or you'll never get out. Who knows? Shimin Nu laughed as he turned his horse around and led the way. Half an hour later, Yang Dingtian galloped and arrived at Cloud Heaven City. Chapter 336. Today was Cloud Sky City's biggest day. Almost the entire Northwest continent had been waiting for this day. On the city wall, rows of warriors were fully armed looking straight ahead. In the sky, there were flying patrols, looking at everything on the ground with caution. At this moment, Cloud Sky City was silent, but it made people feel extremely oppressed. The turbulent tide under the sea could reach the sky at any time and tear everything to pieces. Shimin Lai stepped forward and said loudly, Cloud Sky City's successor, Yang Dingtian has arrived. Open the city gates. The warriors on the city wall were like wooden stakes, as if they didn't hear him. Of course, they wouldn't be like Heavenly Stone Castle, where a clown came out to mock him. They just ignored him coldly. Shimin Lai said angrily, Cloud Sky City's successor, Yang Dingtian has arrived. Open the city gates. On the city wall, there was still no response. They didn't even look at Yang Dingtian. Obviously, when they entered the city, they wanted to embarrass Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian couldn't choose to attack the city gates directly. At this moment, Shimin Nu stepped forward and said, Cloud Sky City's Elder Guild's member, Abyss Castle Master Shimin Nu, wants to enter Cloud Sky City. Open the city gates. Yes, the officer on the city wall shouted. Then the thick city gates were opened. Shimin Nu smiled at Yang Dingtian and said, Looks like it's necessary for me to lead the way. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll be locked out. Yang Dingtian smiled faintly. Since the other party used such a clown's trick, he didn't need to lower himself to the same level of shamelessness as the other party. The thick city gates opened, and a few people walked out. Yang Dingtian was slightly stunned. It was actually Shimin Ju, Yang Yen, Tang Buozhao and the others. Moreover, a gentle and beautiful young woman followed behind Shimin Ju. What surprised Yang Dingtian even more was that the Northwest Qin City's young master, Qin Huayu, came out with them. Qin Huayu stepped forward and bowed. Qin Huayu greets Madame Shimin. Madame Shimin nodded on her horse and didn't reply. Qin Huayu looked at Yang Dingtian, smiled and bowed. Junior brother Yang, long time no see. His smile was gentle and polite, just like a gentleman. It made people feel that the person in the Dongli grassland was not him. Yang Dingtian dismounted and returned the greeting. Senior Marshal Brother Qin. I trust you have been well since we last met. Shimin Ju took a step forward and said, Come, let's enter the city. Then, Qin Huayu and Shimin Ju walked at the front. Yang Yen and Tang Buozhao were in the second row, and Shimin Nu followed closely behind. Yang Dingtian and the others walked behind Shimin Nu and entered Cloud Sky City. After entering Cloud Heaven City, countless gazes were directed at them. Even though Shimin Ju and the others had deliberately planned for the ranking, after entering the city, the majority of the countless gazes in the plaza were directed at Yang Dingtian, who was at the back. No matter how the other party slandered him, no matter how shamelessly the other party tried to frame him, Yang Dingtian was still the person who received the most attention today. He was the absolute main character today, because he was the successor chosen by Shimin Wuya, because he was the husband of Shimin Yinyan, because he had created many miracles, Today was the most important day in Cloud Sky City. Therefore, the number of people in the plaza was unprecedented. The scene was much grander than the duel between Yang Dingtian and Qin Xiaobai. During the previous duel with Qin Xiaobai, all the forces in Cloud Sky City's territory had sent people. And today, in addition to all the forces in Cloud Sky City's territory, all the important people in Cloud Sky City's subsidiary castles, and all the others had come. Almost all the forces in the Northwest continent had sent important people to participate. All the members of the Tiando League had sent people to participate. Moreover, the members of the Tiando League who had come to participate were either successors of sects, sect masters, or at least elders. All the members of the Tiando League's Northwest Conference had arrived. At the top of the plaza, there were hundreds of high and mighty seats. Every seat was occupied by an important person in the chaotic continent. Yang Dingtian even saw Zhu Hongxue of the Black Sky Sect, the Manor Lord of the Divine Weapons Mountain Villa, the Pavilion Master of the Sky Wind Pavilion, First Madame Gongsun of the Seven Refined Lane, and so on. More than half of the sect masters of the 3 sects, 9 clans, and 27 branches had come. The rest were all the young masters of the sections. This should be the foundation of Cloud Sky City. Although they were regarded as traitors of the Yin-Yang school, and didn't enter the 3 sects, 9 clans and 27 branches, they were one of the core forces of the Tiando League. Yang Dingtian's gaze searched for the people of the Yin-Yang school, hoping to see that familiar figure. But it was obvious that she wouldn't come. However, the relationship between the Yin-Yang school and Cloud Sky City was special. Although they were like fire and water, they were of the same origin. Therefore, it wasn't strange for Yang Dingtian to see 5 people from the Yin-Yang school in the most prominent seats. These 5 people were all elders of the Yin-Yang school. Among them, Yang Dingtian saw Lung Ao. He was the young disciple of the Yin-Yang school, who was second only to Dongfang Bingling. His talent wasn't inferior to Zhu Hongxue and Qin Huayu. After Lung Ao felt Yang Dingtian's gaze, he didn't have any special reaction. He just glanced at him and ignored him. This person was extremely arrogant and didn't have any good feelings towards Yang Dingtian. Of course, he didn't show any hostility towards Yang Dingtian. Seeing Yang Dingtian enter, the 20,000 people in the plaza were in an uproar. Countless people stretched their necks, wanting to take a closer look at Yang Dingtian. After all, there were too many legends about Yang Dingtian. Countless people were waiting for Yang Dingtian to create another miracle. Other than the VIP seats at the top of the plaza, there was another row of seats below. All of them were Cloud Sky City's Elders Guild. However, Shimen Nu and Shimen Ju weren't there, because they were going to participate in the martial arts competition. The Elders Guild was the arbiter of the martial arts competition. The 2 of them couldn't participate in the martial arts competition and be the judges. However, among these elders, Yang Dingtian had never seen more than half of them before. It seemed that in the past year, Yang Yen and the others had made a lot of changes to the upper echelons of Cloud Sky City. After Yang Dingtian and the others entered, the 3,000 cavalrymen found an empty square seat and sat on the ground. Their war horses were all tied up outside the city. After everyone was in place, Yang Yin stood up and bowed towards the VIP seats. The time has come. Cloud Sky City requests the Tiando League to officially start the martial arts competition for the position of Cloud Sky City Lord. In the middle of the VIP seats, a solemn and cold woman stood up. She was the pavilion master of the Sky Wind Pavilion. Yang Dingtian didn't know when she became the chief of the Northwest Division of the Tiando League. Furthermore, the Sky Wind Pavilion was from the Southwest continent. Of course, this was definitely under the manipulation of the Northwest Qin City. That was how she became the chief of the Northwest Division of the Tiando League. This was obviously a deal with ulterior motives. He didn't know if this was also the result of Qin Chichi's plan. The pavilion master of the Sky Wind Pavilion said coldly, "I hereby announce that the martial arts competition for the position of Cloud Sky City Lord has officially begun." Everyone was shocked. The big show that they had been waiting for over a year had finally begun. Chapter 337. Competitors of Cloud Sky City step forward. Yang Yin shouted. Immediately, 4 people stepped forward. Shimin Yen, Shimin Nu, Shimin Zhu, and Yang Dingtian. The scale of the Cloud Sky City Lord's Grand Duel was much smaller than the previous one. Last time, there were more than 10 people participating. Or it could be said that Shimin Wuya fought against more than 10 experts. This time, there were only 4 people participating. 3 of Shimin Wuya's adopted sons and a son-in-law. Actually, there was one more person who definitely had the qualifications to participate in the Grand Duel. And that was Shimin Lai. As Shimin Wuya's most outstanding adopted son, it was perfectly justifiable for him to become the successor of Cloud Sky City. If he participated in the Grand Duel, he would take a lot of pressure off Yang Dingtian. Previously, Madame Shimin and Yin Yen had mentioned this tactic, but they were rejected by Yang Dingtian. Verify your identity, Yang Yin shouted. Member of Cloud Sky City's Elder Association, Chief of Internal Affairs Shimin Zhu. Member of Cloud Sky City's Elder Association, Abyss Castle Commander Shimin Nu. Member of Cloud Sky City's Elder Association, Blood Cavalry Commander Shimin Yen. After Shimin Yen proudly introduced himself, Yang Dingtian was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Shimin Yen to become a member of the Elder Association and the Blood Cavalry Commander. On the surface, he seemed to be on the same level as Shimin Lai, but everyone knew that he was just a puppet. Yang Dingtian took a step forward and said, Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian. This self-introduction caused a burst of laughter. This was because the first 4 people had said their prominent positions, while Yang Dingtian was just a rookie in Cloud Sky City. His identity as Shimin Wuya's son-in-law couldn't be considered a position. After the 4 of them reported their identities, the Elder Association of Cloud Sky City verified their identities. However, this was just a procedure. These 4 people, especially Yang Dingtian, could be recognized even if they were burned to ashes. The verification is complete. The duel begins, and the lots are officially drawn. Yang Yin said. Yang Dingtian suddenly stood up and said, Please wait. Immediately, everyone raised their heads. Yang Yin and the others frowned, not knowing what Yang Dingtian was up to. Yang Yin said with a frown, Do not casually interrupt the arbitration council. Otherwise, you will be expelled from the competition. I'm just pointing out some mistakes, Yang Dingtian said coldly. Speak, Yang Yin said coldly. Firstly, may I ask Cloud Sky City's Elder Council if Commander Shimin Lai and Madame Shimin's qualifications to join the Elder Council were not revoked during the previous Tiando League Northwest Conference? Yang Dingtian asked. Didn't young Master Wu Ming say that it was illegal for Cloud Sky City to expel Shimin Lai and Madame Shimin from Cloud Sky City? Yang Yan's expression changed. In particular, Qin Huayu's expression instantly became extremely ugly. Damn it, wasn't that bullshit young Master Wu Ming yourself? This is a huge matter. Once it's exposed, there won't be a place for you, Yang Dingtian, in this world. Now, you're actually recklessly bringing it up? That's right. I didn't say that Shimin Lai and Yang Peipei were expelled from Cloud Sky City, Yang Yin said. Then in this martial arts arbitration council, shouldn't there be a spot for Madame Shimin and Shimin Lai? Yang Dingtian asked. Yang Yan's expression instantly became extremely ugly and was about to scold him. Suddenly, Qin Huayu's gaze shot over. Yang Yin hurriedly bowed towards the VIP seats and said, May the Tiando League Northwest Conference make a decision. The Sky Wind Pavilion Sect Master and the surrounding Tiando League members looked at each other and nodded. Yang Yin said, Add 2 more spots for Yang Peipei and Shimin Lai to join the Martial Arts Arbitration Council. After saying that, Yang Yan's mouth revealed a cold smile. He felt that Yang Dingtian's actions were laughable and pointless. Could it be that he would win and stand up alive? What a joke! Shimin Lai and Madame Shimin entered the Martial Arts Arbitration Council. Yang Yin frowned and said, Let the drawing of lots begin. Hold it! Yang Dingtian shouted. At this moment, the tens of thousands of people in the hall were shocked. Yang Yan's expression turned cold as he coldly scolded. Yang Dingtian, shut up. Don't think that we won't dare to disqualify you. Yang Dingtian laughed mockingly. Don't worry, you won't. Of course they wouldn't. They still wanted to use this opportunity to get rid of this scourge, Yang Dingtian, in broad daylight. Then, Yang Dingtian ignored Yang Yan's reaction and walked to the VIP seats. He bowed and said, reporting, Tiando League Northwest Branch. Wooden Sword Castle is a member of the 3 sects, 9 clans and 27 branches. Tiando League. Castle Lord Li Guanong came to Cloud Sky City to observe the ceremony. Shouldn't he be seated in the VIP seats? Once these words came out, the faces of the people in the VIP seats became slightly awkward and angry. That's right. The Wooden Sword Castle was in dire straits now. They were worse than a countryside force. But they were still a member of the 27 branches and Tiando League. A few hundred years ago, they were even one of the leaders of the Tiando League. They couldn't treat them coldly when they were in dire straits, and not even give them a seat. The Sky Wind Pavilion Master stood up and saluted Li Guanong. My apologies, Senior Brotherly. I didn't see you earlier. Then, the Sky Wind Pavilion Master ordered an extra seat in the VIP seats. Li Guanong sat in the most prominent seat of the day. Coincidentally, he sat directly beside Qin Huayu. At this moment, Yang Yan's complexion was extremely unsightly. Yang Dingtian had repeatedly ruined the drawing of lots, causing his prestige to be swept to the ground. Yang Dingtian, can we begin? What else do you have to say? Yang Yan said coldly. No, please. Yang Dingtian returned to his seat. The drawing of lots has officially begun. Yang Yan said coldly. The rules are the same as the previous martial contest. One of the lots is the stage master, and the rest are the challengers, from number 1 to 3. The person who draws the stage master's lot will take turns to accept the challenges of all the opponents on the stage, until they are defeated. The winner will automatically become the new stage master. The last person to stand on the stage will become the new Cloud Sky City Lord. When this rule was announced, the crowd was in an uproar. This was too cruel. It was simply a tag team battle. That's right, it was a tag team battle. This rule was tailor-made for Shimen Wuya by the Yang clan. It couldn't be described as shameless. Moreover, they had prepared more than a dozen challengers for Shimen Wuya, each stronger than the last. Not only that, they even schemed to frame Shimen Wuya and poison him, weakening his cultivation. But even so, Shimen Wuya still defeated more than a dozen challengers with incomparable valiance. He won the martial contest, and became the first city lord to defy the heavens in more than 200 years. This time, Yang Yan and the rest were considered kind. They only prepared 3 challengers for Yang Dingtian. However, this was also a form of disdain. They felt that Yang Dingtian and Yang Dingtian were worlds apart. 3 challengers were more than enough to kill Yang Dingtian. With regards to Yang Dingtian's cultivation, they were extremely clear about it. 1 month ago, in the Dongli grassland, Yang Dingtian was completely defeated by Dugufengwu, and didn't have the slightest ability to retaliate. After the Tiando League chairman checked the lot, the drawing of lots began. Many people present held their breaths, and waited for the result of the drawing of lots. Yang Dingtian went forward and casually drew a lot before handing it over to Yang Yan. The result of this drawing of lots was certain. Yang Dingtian would definitely get the stage master position. Yang Yan opened the lot, and flipped it over to show it to everyone. He then announced loudly, Yang Dingtian has drawn the lot stage master. Hush! Instantly countless people below booed. Yang Dingtian also sneered. Regarding the shamelessness of Yang Yan and the rest, no matter how high their estimation was, it wouldn't be an exaggeration. Of course, on the surface, this was very fair and transparent. All the lots had been carefully examined. These lots were all made of energy crystals. If one wanted to cheat, it was really too easy. Following that, Shimen Yan and the rest drew lots even more blatantly. Shimen Yan drew the first challenger. Shimen Nu drew the second challenger. Shimen Ju drew the third challenger. It was a completely undisguised battle of attrition from low to high. The tens of thousands of people present booed unceasingly. Cloud Heaven City's way of eating was simply too unsightly. Yang Yan's expression was cold as he said to Yang Dingtian and the rest, Do you have any objections to the result of the drawing of lots? No. 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 Shimen Yan, Shimen Nu, and Shimanju said at the same time. Yang Yan's gaze landed coldly on Yang Dingtian's face and said in a cold voice, Yang Dingtian, do you have any objections? Immediately, everyone's gazes all looked at Yang Dingtian, waiting for him to peel off Yang Yan's face again. The corners of Yang Dingtian's mouth revealed a mocking smile as he shook his head and said, I have no objections. If you have no objections, then stand on the stage. Yang Yan said. The stage was in the center of the huge plaza, paved with huge stones. After dozens of steps, the stage was more than 10 meters high and about 500 square meters in area. Yang Dingtian stepped onto the stage step by step. Everyone looked at Yang Dingtian, who was walking up step by step, and had a very strange feeling. Yang Dingtian seemed to not be competing, but ascending to the throne as a king. He walked to the center of the stage. Suddenly, the tens of thousands of warriors below cheered in unison. Long live City Lord Yang Dingtian! Long live Yang Dingtian! In the beginning, it was only the Black Blood Cavalry that was shouting. Subsequently, Yang Dingtian's 500 new direct subordinates also started to shout. Subsequently, most of the martial artists in Cloud Heaven City also started to shout. Finally, almost all the martial artists were shouting. Anyway, the law can't punish the masses. Most of the people sitting in the plaza were basic-level warriors. They yearned for the legend of Yang Dingtian's rise very much. If they were previously filled with jealousy towards Yang Dingtian, because he had married Shiman Yin, they were now filled with jealousy. But now, this jealousy had almost disappeared. They only felt that Yang Dingtian was like their spokesperson. From the weakest martial artist, he had walked to the peak of this world. This feeling made them empathize with him. Hearing everyone cheering for Yang Dingtian, the faces of Yang Yan and the rest turned ugly. Let him be proud for a while. In any case, he will definitely die today, Tang Boizhao said coldly. In terms of hatred towards Yang Dingtian, no one present could surpass Tang Boizhao. His son and daughter, whether directly or indirectly, had died in the hands of Yang Dingtian. He really wished he could skin Yang Dingtian alive. Challenger number 1 go. Yang Yin said. Shiman Yin bowed towards the VIP seats and gently bounced. He landed lightly on the contest stage and stood 10 meters in front of Yang Dingtian. Draw your sword, you bastard picked up, Shiman Yin said coldly. Originally, you should have died under my sword more than a year ago. Killing you today can be considered letting you off too easily. When he said more than a year ago, he was obviously referring to when they were at sea. A year and a half ago, you bastard used despicable means to defeat Qin Xiaobai. You used the power of heaven and earth to break through from a novice warrior to a Xian martial artist and steal the title of a peerless genius. Shiman Yin sneered and said, I want to see how strong a peerless genius like you has been in this year and a half. Because there won't be a second Yin Yang festival for you to take advantage of. Did a peerless genius like you break through to the great Xian martial master? Shiman Yin actually did not know his cultivation. Qin Huayu clearly knew, so Shimanju definitely knew as well. However, he did not tell Shiman Yin. Immediately, Yang Dingtian looked at Shiman Yin like an idiot. In this year and a half, I have already broken through from a 9-star martial profound to a 2-star martial ancestor. Tell me, how do you want to die? Shiman Yin slowly drew his sword. Yang Dingtian looked at Shiman Yin with a gaze filled with pity. This idiot was clearly a cannon fodder that Shimanju and Yang Yin pushed out to die. Yang Dingtian, draw your sword. Shiman Yin shouted. Yang Dingtian raised his sword and said indifferently, Against trash like you, there is no need to draw my sword. Your blood is not enough for my sharp blade to drink. Hearing Yang Dingtian's humiliating words, Shiman Yin was enraged and roared, Die! Then he held his large sword and ferociously charged towards Yang Dingtian. Chapter 338. Shiman Yin instantly channeled his Xian Qi to the extreme. He clearly knew that he had no hope of winning the City Lord's grand duel this time. Compared to Shiman Nu and Shimanju, he was much worse. However, in front of everyone's eyes, he must perform to the extreme. Therefore, he had to use the most gorgeous effect to instantly defeat Yang Dingtian and leave a deep impression on the tens of thousands of people present. Most importantly, in the future, he would obtain an important position with real power in Cloud Sky City. Even in the entire Northwest continent, he would obtain an important position. At this moment in his heart, he no longer regarded Cloud Sky City as Cloud Sky City. He had long chosen to work for the Northwest Qin family. When Yang Dingtian saw Shimin Yin rushing over, he immediately stood still. He still did not draw his sword. In an instant, Shimin Yin was in front of him. The large sword in his hand directly slashed down on Yang Dingtian's head. Immediately, everyone cried out in surprise. "Die bastard!" Shimin Yin roared, and wanted to chop Yang Dingtian into meat paste. At this moment, Qin Huayu turned his head away, unwilling to see the next scene. Yang Dingtian's sword was still sheathed. He held the sword in his right hand, and suddenly raised it. Dang! A crisp sound and sparks flew. Immediately, Yang Dingtian blocked Shimin Yan's sword. When Shimin Yan saw that his sword was easily blocked, he was immediately startled. "Ah!" Shimin Yan roared crazily. Holding the sword with both hands, he crazily pressed down. Yang Dingtian easily withstood all of Shimin Yan's energy suppression with one hand. Shimin Yan used all his strength. His face became redder and redder. Cold sweat burst out. But the sword in his hand still could not be pressed down. "Idiot, Shimin Ju and Qin Huayu deliberately sent you to your death," Yang Dingtian said indifferently. Then, he gently exhaled his Xian Qi. Puff! Immediately, the sharp sword in Shimin Yan's hand shattered into pieces and turned into ashes. This effect was really incomparably gorgeous. Although Shimin Yan's hand was not a divine weapon, it was still a one-in-a-million treasure sword. Just like that, it dissipated in the wind, turning into countless powder that flew away. Then, under Shimin Yan's shocked gaze, he violently spurted out blood, and his entire body flew out a few hundred meters like a kite. Bang! Shimin Yan's body fell directly in front of Yang Yan. Blood continuously spurted out from his mouth and nose. After falling to the ground, he fiercely supported himself with both hands, trying to get up. However, he discovered that there was no strength in his entire body. The profound veins in his entire body seemed to have turned into a pile of mud. No! Shimin Yan let out a miserable howl and spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground unconscious. From the beginning to the end, Yang Dingtian did not draw his sword, nor did he use any techniques, let alone any profound skills. He killed Shimin Yan in an instant just like that. There was silence in the square. Everyone looked at everything in front of them in horror. The tens of thousands of people present did not know Yang Dingtian's exact cultivation level. They only knew that a year and a half ago, he was only a 3-star Xian martial artist. Now, Shimin Yan was a martial ancestor realm expert. Yet, he had been easily defeated by Yang Dingtian. Then what level was Yang Dingtian at? Even Yang Yan, Shimin Ju, Qin Huayu, and the rest revealed astonished and grave expressions. They knew Yang Dingtian's cultivation level, and deliberately sent Shimin Yan to his death. However, they did not expect that Yang Dingtian would actually kill Shimin Yan in an instant so easily. Long live, long live! Yang Dingtian's direct subordinates reacted first, and then roared excitedly. Following that, everyone present began to shout loudly. Long live Yang Dingtian! Yang Yan took a deep breath and said loudly. The first battle, Platform Master Yang Dingtian wins. Challenger number 2, come on stage and challenge. Following Yang Yan's order, Shimin Nu walked up the stage step by step with his sword in hand. He was very handsome and cold, so he had an imposing manner when he walked. However, gradually people began to cry out in surprise. Immediately after, everyone discovered that every step Shimin Yan took left behind a deep footprint. This was not much, but the key was that the hard rocks of every footprint were all burnt black. How hard were these rocks? If one wanted to shatter them, perhaps many people could do it. However, the fact that there was not a single crack after leaving a deep footprint on the ground was very shocking. What was even more terrifying was that the mystic chi released from his feet actually burnt the rocks. One must know that burning rocks was much harder than burning steel. It could be seen how astonishing this Shimin Nu's cultivation was. Shimin Lai and Madame Shimin looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. Lai, what is this Shimin Nu's cultivation level? Madame Shimin asked. This person has always been very distant with us. I really don't know his specific cultivation level, Shimin Lai said. But from the looks of it, his cultivation level is not inferior to mine. Then comparing you and little Tian, whose cultivation is stronger? Madame Shimin asked. Shimin Lai said, purely in terms of mystic qi cultivation, I am slightly stronger than young master. Immediately, Madame Shimin's heart was filled with uneasiness. This Shimin Nu's cultivation level was actually slightly higher than Shimin Lai's, and Yang Dingtian's cultivation level was slightly lower than Shimin Lai's. Then this battle seemed to be really worrying. Shimin Nu walked to Yang Dingtian and said slowly, Yang Dingtian, your performance just now was really amazing. Thank you for the compliment. Yang Dingtian said, the speed of your cultivation is really far beyond my imagination. Shimin Nu said, I have never seen or heard of it before. Thank you for the compliment. Yang Dingtian said. However, all of this is over. Shimin Nu said, you took something that you shouldn't have taken, and you provoked an enemy that you shouldn't have provoked. So, everything ends here. In the future, perhaps you will leave behind your reputation as an absolute genius, but all of this ends here. Yang Dingtian nodded. I am a 3-star revered martial artist. Shimin Nu said indifferently, my cultivation level should be 1 level higher than Shimin Lai's, and at least 1 level higher than yours. So you have no hope. Remember, after I kill you, don't blame me when you go to hell. You are the one who brought about your own death. Yang Dingtian finally couldn't help but frown and ask, Shimin Nu, can I ask you a question? Speak. Shimin Nu said, you are one of Martial Uncle Shimin's most valued foster sons. Why did you betray him and collude with those traitors? Yang Dingtian said, Big brother Shimin Lai once said many times that you could be our comrade. Why did you become our enemy? Shimin Nu laughed and said, you are about to be killed. Why do you care so much about this answer? Yang Dingtian nodded and said, of course. If I don't ask now, I am afraid that I won't have the chance to ask in the future. Alright, then I will tell you. There are 2 reasons, Shimin Nu said. The first reason is that among my foster father's many foster sons, I am the most handsome one. So, I always thought that Yin Yan and I were a match made in heaven. However, my foster father actually betrothed Yin Yan to you, an outsider of unknown origin. When I heard this news, I smashed the entire room and killed dozens of innocent people. Then what is the second reason? Yang Dingtian asked. The second reason is that I will only stand on the side of the strong, Shimin Nu said. You want me to be loyal to an outsider who is still wet behind the ears like you. I am not as stupid as Shimin Lai. Yang Dingtian nodded and said, I understand. Thank you for telling me. Actually, there is a third reason. Shimin Nu's eyes revealed a trace of gloominess as he said, among my foster sons, my cultivation is not inferior to Shimin Lai's. My intelligence is not inferior to Shimin Ju's. My appearance and bearing far surpass theirs. So why did my foster father send me to the Abyss Castle so early, and make me stay away from Cloud Heaven City? This made me very angry and dissatisfied. Especially when he chose you as his successor. I no longer treated him as my foster father. I want to smash his everything. I want to let him know that his choice was wrong. Yang Dingtian completely understood. In an instant, his eyes were filled with bone-deep hatred. Yang Dingtian finally knew why Shimin Wuya, named him Shimin Nu. Yang Dingtian had always felt that it was strange. Shimin Nu was a cold and handsome person who had nothing to do with the word Nu. Why would Shimin Wuya give him such a name? Now it seemed that Shimin Wuya's name was extremely accurate. This person's narrow-mindedness, this person's vengeance for the smallest grievance. It was completely the most Yang Dingtian had ever seen. Yang Dingtian, you humiliated me. Later, I will let you die in the most humiliating way. Shimin Nu said coldly. His voice was as cold as if it came from the depths of hell. After saying this, he jumped up and the sharp sword in his hand lightly pierced towards Yang Dingtian. Shimin Nu learned an 8th grade martial technique, Cold Flame Sword Art. In the entire Cloud Sky City, he was the only one who learned this set of sword art. Although Cold Flame Sword Art was a fire martial technique, It leaned towards Een and cold, which was very suitable for Shimannu's character and talent. And the most important thing was that there was the word flame on it. From then on, he was filled with absolute possessiveness towards Yin Yen. Whoosh! As Xianqi was injected, Shimannu's sword instantly changed color, and a blue flame gushed out. Whoosh! Before Shimannu's sword arrived, a blue fire snake suddenly shot out. It was tricky, vicious, and incomparably fast. It suddenly flew towards Yang Dingtian, and instantly wrapped around Yang Dingtian's neck. It opened its fangs and fiercely bit down on Yang Dingtian's neck. Looking at the sword light and the fire snake's terrifying eyes, it was exactly the same as Shimannu's. Everyone exclaimed because Yang Dingtian's neck was almost instantly wrapped around. This move was the third move of Cold Flame Sword Art Ghost Chain. Once the neck was wrapped around, it would not stop until death. It was almost certain death. Therefore, everyone present was shocked, and their expressions changed drastically. Yang Yin sneered disdainfully and said, "It's only so." Seeing the sword light snake biting over, Yang Dingtian directly opened his mouth. Everyone was shocked. Was he crazy? Was Yang Dingtian scared out of his wits? In an instant, this ferocious sword light snake suddenly drilled into Yang Dingtian's mouth. Some people directly closed their eyes, because Yang Dingtian's actions were completely courting death. However, what happened next stunned everyone once again. Yang Dingtian opened his mouth and lightly spat. Immediately, a ball of flame emerged from his mouth and collided with the terrifying sword light fire snake. In an instant, that ferocious and terrifying fire snake was instantly turned into ashes. How could this be? Everyone was shocked, including Shimannu. His face was also filled with shock. How could this be? But very quickly this emotion was swept away. Shimannu's sword was like an even more terrifying poisonous snake, piercing into Yang Dingtian's mouth like lightning. Ah! Yin Yin and Mrs. Shiman cried out in horror. The tens of thousands of people present also suddenly stood up and looked at the terrifying scene in front of them. Shimannu's sword directly pierced into Yang Dingtian's mouth, like the most vicious poisonous snake. No one expected that the two of them had just started fighting, and the scene would be so vicious and terrifying. No matter how one looked at it, Yang Dingtian was definitely going to die this time. Chapter 339. Shimannu's sharp sword directly pierced into Yang Dingtian's mouth, and was about to pierce his throat. Yang Dingtian opened his mouth, and instantly spat out a colorless flame. Of course, this was the mysterious fire, and it was an extremely condensed mysterious fire. It had an extremely terrifying temperature, and was wrapped in harmless mysterious qi. Almost instantly, the top 2 inches of Shimannu's sword turned red, and then shattered into pieces, turning into nothingness in the air. What a gorgeous and strange scene! When Yang Dingtian's million-spirit demon fire was condensed to the extreme, it could even burn the bloody black gold into pieces, not to mention Shimannu's sword. Seeing this scene, Shimannu was shocked and completely revealed a look of disbelief. This was too shocking. 1 inch of his sword actually shattered in Yang Dingtian's mouth, and was blown out by a gust of wind. But soon, Shimannu's sword blade turned, almost touching Yang Dingtian's flesh, and slashed towards his neck, wanting to cut off his neck. Pig-killing swordsmanship cleaning the stomach. The sword in Yang Dingtian's hand spun rapidly. Almost instantly, it entangled Shimannu's sword, making him completely unable to escape. Shimannu was shocked. He frantically accelerated and attacked crazily. Suddenly, his sword was no longer like a poisonous snake, but like a ghost. However, he was still unable to break out of Yang Dingtian's entanglement. No matter how fast his sword was, no matter how fast his movement technique was. In the end, there were only 2 gray shadows left on the battle stage. It was impossible to see their faces clearly. Shimannu had completely reached the extreme. His anger had also reached the extreme. This Yang Dingtian, who he had never put in his eyes, was actually not at a disadvantage in terms of moves. He had always thought that his cold flame sword art was rare in the world. In addition to his speed, his strength far exceeded it, so it was more than enough to use moves to kill Yang Dingtian. Shimannu's plan was like this. First compete in moves, then compete in mysterious chi. Finally compete in mysterious skill. He would not kill young Ding Tian at the beginning. That would be too boring. Just like a cat catching a mouse, it had to play with it for a while. He wanted to prove in front of everyone that he, Shiman knew, was much stronger than young Ding Tian, this bastard. No matter if it was moves, profound energy or profound skills, he had to display the ability to instantly kill young Ding Tian. But now he didn't have the upper hand in a simple duel of swordsmanship. How could he accept this? Ah! Young Ding Tian shouted loudly, and the sharp sword in his hand suddenly burst out, completely ignoring the sword hilt of young Ding Tian. This guy was shameless. On the surface, it looked as if he had been pushed to the brink of death. He completely ignored defense and directly clashed with young Ding Tian. Even if his chest and arm were to be shattered by young Ding Tian's sword, he would still stab his sword into young Ding Tian's eyes. But don't forget that young Ding Tian's sword was still sheathed. It was just a blunt sword hilt. Pig-killing swordsmanship, eviscerate the flesh. Pig-killing swordsmanship, sword on the chopping board. Young Ding Tian quickly mixed the two moves of pig-killing swordsmanship together, completely ignoring Shiman Nu's sword that was stabbing towards his eyes. The sword in his hand quickly strangled Shiman Nu's right arm. Bang bang bang. In an instant, the sleeve of Shiman Nu's right arm shattered inch by inch, revealing the golden mystical magic illusory armor inside. Although this thing was not as good as the deep sea Xian clothes, it was still completely invulnerable. Shiman Nu's right arm was strangled, but the sword didn't stop at all, directly stabbing towards Yang Dingtian's right eye. Yang Dingtian's sword turned, like a snake, wrapped around Shiman Nu's right arm, and fiercely stabbed towards the right side of his heart. If Yang Dingtian's eyes were stabbed blind, then Shiman Nu's heart would also be pierced. However, whoever retreated first would lose the battle of swordsmanship. Shiman Nu didn't retreat at all, and the sword in his hand continued to stab towards Yang Dingtian's eyes like lightning. Yang Dingtian also didn't retreat at all, and his sword stabbed towards Shiman Nu's chest. If he didn't retreat, he might be blind or die. If he retreated, he would lose. At this time, everyone present felt extremely regretful, because Yang Dingtian's sword was not out of the sheath, and Shiman Nu was wearing the mystical magic illusory armor. It was completely impossible to pierce his heart. In everyone's horrified eyes, the two people fought each other crazily. Everyone present didn't expect that the duel between Shiman Nu and Yang Dingtian was actually so naked and so dangerous. And Yin Yen, her delicate body trembled, and she didn't dare to look at it again. Ding! Between lightning and thunder, Shiman Nu's sword directly arrived in front of Yang Dingtian's eyeball. Yang Dingtian's sword stabbed Shiman Nu's chest with incomparable ferocity. In this move, Yang Dingtian won first point. This was because Yang Dingtian had struck Shiman Nu first. However, Shiman Nu sneered in his heart. So what if you have the upper hand? Your sword is not out of the sheath, so it can't pierce my chest. The resentment in Shiman Nu's heart soared to the sky. He puffed out his chest to welcome Yang Dingtian's sword, and the sharp sword in his hand ferociously stabbed into Yang Dingtian's eyeball. This person's pride was fake. Competing in swordsmanship, he clearly already lost. But he wanted to take advantage of Yang Dingtian's sword not being out of the sheath, to seize the opportunity to stab Yang Dingtian blind. But immediately after, something happened that made him horrified to the extreme. Because Yang Dingtian's sword hilt directly tore apart the mystical magic illusory armor in front of his chest like a hot knife through butter, and directly stabbed into his chest. Although his sword could stab Yang Dingtian blind, his heart would be directly pierced. Yang Dingtian paid an eye, and he had to pay with his life. Ah! Bang! Sword light burst forth. Shiman Nu retreated several dozen meters like lightning. Then, only to see the clothes on his chest suddenly disintegrate by 3 inches, revealing the mystical magic illusory armor inside. Immediately after, the mystical magic illusory armor shattered, revealing the chest inside. Finally, a gash appeared on the chest, flowing with bright red blood. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Yang Dingtian's sword was not out of the sheath, and it actually directly pierced through the mystical magic illusory armor. This mystical magic illusory armor was made with bloody black gold, and many other kinds of materials. Even if it was the bloody black gold sword, it was also very hard to pierce through at once. But Yang Dingtian's sword sheath actually pierced through this mystical magic illusory armor effortlessly. Immediately, Qin Huayu's expression became incomparably ugly. Because this mystical magic illusory armor was his Northwest Qin city's treasure, lent to Shimin Nu. Now it actually directly pierced a hole in the chest area. That virtually meant that this mystical magic illusory armor was already ruined. Yang Dingtian looked at Shimin Nu and smiled faintly. I've already told you that my pig-slaying swordsmanship is the best in the world. You still want to compete with me in swordsmanship? Aren't you looking for trouble? Shimin Nu's expression was incomparably ugly. His gaze was so furious that it was almost distorted. He glared fiercely at Yang Dingtian and said coldly, "Swordsmanship is just an unorthodox method. It's not worthy of the Great Hall's elegance. To think that you're so proud of it." Yang Dingtian shook his head and sighed. Originally, he still had some expectations for Shimin Nu. Now he was really disappointed. His martial arts talent was naturally very high, but he was too narrow-minded. Most importantly, he was vain and insidious. Next, it's a confrontation of blood and fire. It's a real confrontation of celestial qi. Don't even think about taking advantage of it. Shimin Nu sneered. I'd like to see how long you can last in front of me, a 3-star martial venerable. This person's vanity was really to the extreme. At the beginning, it was also because of him that they competed in swordsmanship. Now he lost in swordsmanship, and said that Yang Dingtian was only taking advantage of it. Shimin Nu held the sword with both hands. Boom! Celestial qi gushed out, and suddenly the flames burned fiercely. Then, a blue flame sword light rushed into the sky. 10 feet, 15 feet, 30 feet. Shimin Nu's sword light became longer and longer, thicker and more astonishing. Finally, it reached a full 300 feet, straight into the sky. That's right, this was the power of a 3-star martial venerable. A terrifying sword light of more than 300 feet. Murderous intent soared into the sky. Yang Dingtian, show me your sword light. Shimin Nu laughed. Yang Dingtian held the sword with both hands, and suddenly injected celestial qi. Boom! A ball of red flame burned fiercely on the sword. Then the red sword light rushed into the sky. 50 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, 19 feet. Finally, under everyone's expectant gaze, Yang Dingtian's sword light stopped at 230 feet. 230 feet. It was about the cultivation of an 8-star martial ancestor. Everyone was shocked. Finally, Yang Dingtian revealed his cultivation level. Everyone was shocked. Last year, he was only a 3-star martial artist. Today, he was already a 5-star martial ancestor. How earth-shattering was this cultivation speed? However, many people could not hide their disappointment. They felt that Yang Dingtian could create miracles. Although a 5-star martial ancestor was already very amazing, it was impossible to defeat a 3-star martial venerable. Yang Dingtian still created miracles. But in the end, he did not create a miracle that defied the heavens. He was definitely going to lose this battle. Qin Huayu also smiled. This was very similar to his impression of Yang Dingtian's cultivation. That's right, when he was in the Dongli grassland, Yang Dingtian's cultivation was a 5-star martial ancestor. 5-star martial ancestor, Yang Dingtian, your cultivation speed is really shocking. Shimin Nu sneered. However, I really admire your courage. You're only a 5-star martial ancestor, and you dare to come to Cloud Sky City to die? Instantly, Shimin Nu was filled with absolute confidence again. A 5-star martial ancestor was 1 stage, and 8 levels away from him. He was completely confident that he could kill Yang Dingtian in 1 move. This was because the difference in Xian Qi between the two of them was too great. It was at least 10 times. 1 move, just 1 move. Shimin Nu sneered. If I can't kill you in 1 move, it will be my shame. 1 move to kill a clown like you in 1 move. Shimin Nu roared. He suddenly raised his sword and slashed fiercely at Yang Dingtian. Suddenly, a 300-foot-long sword ray fell from the sky. It was like thunder and lightning from the 9 heavens. It slashed at Yang Dingtian with the force of Mount Tai. Kill! Yang Dingtian roared. The sword in his hand met Shiman Nu's sword ray, and slashed fiercely. The 200-foot-long sword ray met the 300-foot-long sword ray, and went crazy. Boom! There was a loud sound and a burst of terrifying white light. Where the sword rays collided, there was a burst of dazzling light. It was better than the two suns in the sky, causing tens of thousands of people to be unable to see anything. Puff! Shiman Nu violently spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body flew dozens of meters away. Chapter 340. That's right. Shiman Nu was sent flying dozens of meters away, as he vomited blood in the air. As for Yang Dingtian, he quickly retreated more than 10 meters. Wherever his feet passed, the hard stone floor was completely shattered. After more than 10 meters, Yang Dingtian's feet fiercely stabbed a foot into the ground, stopping the momentum of his retreat. Pfft! Then he also spat out a mouthful of blood. But that was all. Bang! Shiman Nu fell from a height of dozens of meters, and was about to fall out of the martial arts arena. In the air, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and slashed the air behind him with his palm. Suddenly, a burst of profound qi pushed him forward. Finally, Shiman Nu landed on the stage with great difficulty. Once he left the stage, he would be defeated. After his feet landed on the ground, the hard stone floor shattered. Shiman Nu staggered for a while, and spat out another mouthful of blood before standing firm. At this moment, Shiman Ju's eyes revealed a trace of surprise and complicated light. Then, the hand that was tightly clenched in his sleeve loosened slightly. Something continued to circulate in his palm. After seeing this scene, everyone was speechless and shocked speechless. What was going on? What the hell was going on? One was clearly 230 feet long sword light, and the other was 300 feet long sword light. The difference was like heaven and earth. Why would Shiman Nu be sent flying dozens of meters like a straw and vomit blood? And Yang Dingtian had only retreated more than 10 meters, and spat out a mouthful of blood. This was too inconceivable, too shocking. Everyone's brain almost stopped reacting in an instant. Even Yang Dingtian's personal army did not cheer. After landing, Shiman Nu was completely stunned. Just now, in front of everyone, he proudly said that he would kill Yang Dingtian in one move. But now he was sent flying dozens of meters and vomited blood. His brain instantly felt as if it was struck by lightning. He could not believe that this was reality. He only felt that this was a nightmare. Even his brain had lost its ability to react. Long live! Long live Yang Dingtian! The cheers in the square woke Shiman Nu up. Endless humiliation, endless embarrassment, and endless pain surged like a tide. Shiman Nu was really going crazy, he was going to collapse. Anger, unwillingness, disbelief, shame, resentment. Countless complex emotions converged into a ball. In the end, it was summed up in one sentence. Yang Dingtian, you cheated. You spy of evil ways, you cheated. Shiman Nu madly roared hysterically. Yang Dingtian was stunned. Everyone present was stunned. Even Yang Yen, Qin Huayu, and the others were stunned. This Shiman Nu was too shameless. Since he couldn't beat the other party, he immediately accused the other party of cheating. Just now it was the most blatant competition of profound qi. There was no falsehood, and there was no cheating. He, Yang Dingtian, couldn't bear the result of failure, and actually slandered Yang Dingtian for cheating. This person truly couldn't be seen unless it was a critical moment. Shiman Nu had always been proud and callous, but unexpectedly he was this kind of trash. Of course, Yang Dingtian didn't cheat. He also didn't divert his attention to use Yin Yang Qi transformation technique. The reason for this result was entirely because of two reasons. The first reason was his soul sword, a soul sword that was almost heaven-defying. A full 1.5 times increase in profound qi directly multiplied the energy of Yang Dingtian's 1-star profound qi, and after that, it was almost the same as Shiman Nu's profound qi attack. In addition, the profound qi contained the energy of the profound fire, so it created such a shocking attack effect. The second reason was because of his terrifying 9 yang profound veins. And after the baptism of Naga's purple profound veins, the resistance of his profound veins far surpassed Shiman Nu's. Therefore, the same level of energy, Shimin Nu violently vomited blood and flew dozens of meters away. And Yang Dingtian only retreated dozens of meters and vomited blood. You cheated, Yang Dingtian, you dog of evil ways. Shimin Nu roared. Tell me your reason. Yang Dingtian said. You obviously only have a sword light of 230 feet. You are obviously a 5-star martial great master. How can you defeat me? A 3-star martial revered martial artist with a sword light of 380 feet. Shimin Nu said sternly. Yang Dingtian disdainfully smiled and said, Shimin Nu, sword light is the same as a man's thing. After reaching a certain level, it's not better to be longer. The thickness is also very important. Then, Yang Dingtian smiled and said, You want to be longer, right? Boom. After saying that, Yang Dingtian clenched his hands. Suddenly, a ball of flame soared into the sky. A red sword light pierced the sky. The sword light became longer and longer. More than 200 feet, more than 300 feet. Finally, under everyone's shocked gaze, the sword light became longer and longer. 310 feet. 320 feet. 330 feet. 340 feet. 350 feet. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Yang Dingtian's 350 feet sword light pierced the sky. There were tens of thousands of people in the square, but it was as silent as death. Many people even instinctively held their breaths. What did a 350 feet sword light mean? It meant that he was a revered martial artist. Yang Dingtian was only 21 years old this year. Moreover, he had only started practicing martial arts for less than 2 years, and had directly become a revered martial artist. This was too earth-shattering, too shocking. After a moment of silence, the square was set off by a stormy wave of cheers. Countless martial artists stood up, waving their arms and shouting, Long live Yang Dingtian! Long live the Cloud Sky City Governor! Long live Yang Dingtian! The cheers were different from before. Previously, they were just supporting him. Now they were completely fanatical fanaticism. A revered martial artist could already be ranked at the top of this world's young experts. Even in Cloud Sky City, there were not more than a few people who had surpassed the revered martial artist level. In just over a year, Yang Dingtian had broken through from a Xian martial artist to a revered martial artist. This was no longer a miracle, it was a complete miracle. At this moment, Yang Dingtian could be said to have conquered everyone present. Yang Yan, Shimin Ju, and Qin Huayu's expressions had always been cold with a hint of disdain. Now for the first time, they were incomparably dignified and shocked. Qin Huayu was very clear about Yang Dingtian's cultivation. 20 days ago, he was only a 5-star martial ancestor. Now he had directly broken through to the revered martial artist level. Qin Huayu felt waves of coldness in his heart. He had received an unprecedented shock. In the past, he had always looked down on Yang Dingtian from a lofty position. Suddenly, he had directly rushed to his side. He was already at the revered martial artist level like him. Instantly, Qin Huayu and Yang Yin looked at each other, both immediately understanding each other's intentions. Today, no matter what, they had to kill Yang Dingtian. Otherwise, in the future, they did not dare to imagine how shocking Yang Dingtian's cultivation would be. At that time, it would be the doomsday of all Yang Dingtian's enemies. Seeing Yang Dingtian directly burst out a 35 zhang sword light, Shimin Nu's eyes instantly widened to the maximum. His entire spirit, his entire will, was completely collapsing at a speed that could be seen with the naked eye. At this moment, his pride was completely like a castle on the beach. After being washed by the waves, it instantly turned into a pile of sand. Seeing Shimin Nu like this, Yang Yin suddenly shouted, Shimin Nu, don't be unreasonable. You know what you should do? After being shouted by Yang Yin, Shimin Nu's gaze gradually condensed again, his spirit sobering up again. Then, the expression on his face gradually became gloomy and cold. His gaze condensed bone-piercing hatred, incomparable determination, extreme resentment and absolute killing intent. Yang Dingtian, you've destroyed everything for me. Now it's my turn. Come with me to see my foster father. Shimin Nu said indifferently. Huff! A flame emerged from his palm. You're a top genius, I've never seen it before. But to be able to destroy a genius like you, I'm very happy. Ayo! A black flame suddenly flew out from Shiman Nu's body. It was a black flame phoenix. This was his martial spirit. Ninth grade demon beast, Black Sky Phoenix, was equivalent to a grandmaster level powerhouse. Of course, after refining the martial spirit, the highest combat power could only be equal to the master. Huff! Ayo! Shiman Nu looked up to the sky and roared. In an instant his body suddenly rose. Higher and higher, higher and higher, finally more than 3 meters tall. The black muscles completely burst the epidermis. Mystic veins swelled twice as large, exposed to the air. All the muscles in his body split open, muscles swelled, tendons swelled, and black and red blood dripped all over the ground. Shiman Nu, from a handsome young master, turned into a ferocious and terrifying devil. Immediately after, a black and red flame suddenly burned from Shiman Nu's body. This was the 8th grade superior profound skill, Netherworld Absolute Fire. The flame was getting higher and higher, darker and darker, deeper and deeper. Yang Dingtian, I don't want my profound chi. I don't want my chi si. I don't want my martial spirit, I don't want it. I only want one thing, and that is to perish together with you. In the crazy roar, the energy in Shiman Nu's body condensed, becoming stronger and more terrifying. His profound chi's energy suddenly multiplied. His martial spirit condensed. His netherworld absolute fire condensed. 3 incomparably powerful forces condensed together, instantly increasing his combat power by several times. Shiman Nu's evil technique was completely to dissolve his own chi si, turning it into an endless stream of profound chi, igniting it with the netherworld absolute fire, condensing the black fire phoenix, condensing the final devil attack. Everyone was surprised at first, and finally angry. Shameless, this is evil technique, this is evil technique. Everyone roared. Li Guanong, Shiman Lai, and Mrs. Shiman were about to rush out from their seats. Yang Yan's eyes were ferocious, and he roared. Evil ways Shiman Nu, using evil techniques, immediately execute him. Then, Yang Yan and the rest flew out. On the surface, it looked like they were going to execute Yang Dingtian. But in fact they were blocking Shiman Lai, Mrs. Shiman, and Li Guanong, to buy time for Shiman Nu to kill Yang Dingtian. Shameless. Tens of thousands of people roared, and they were about to rush up the stage. Too late. It's already too late, you're dead, you're dead. Shiman Nu laughed crazily, and his whole body turned into a black flame, rushing towards Yang Dingtian. This was his fatal attack. The devil attack condensed from his martial spirit, Chi Si, and netherworld absolute fire. Wherever the black flame passed, everything was destroyed. This incomparably terrifying power was almost enough to destroy heaven and earth. Chapter 341. At this moment, Shiman Nu was no longer a martial artist, nor was he a living being. At this moment he was just a human bomb. Even if Yang Dingtian tore him into pieces, he would not be able to stop him from exploding. What was even more frightening was that even if Yang Dingtian wanted to escape, it was too late. Because Shiman Nu's speed was extremely fast, far faster than Yang Dingtian. And even if he escaped and left the arena, he would be considered to have lost. Even if Shiman Nu died immediately, it would not change the fact that Yang Dingtian had lost. At that time, Yang Dingtian would not be able to ascend to the position of Cloud Heaven City, Lord with the most arrogant attitude. Seeing the burning Shiman Nu shooting over like a missile. Fight! Yang Dingtian clenched his teeth. Holding the sword with both hands, he stabbed it into the ground. Boom! A golden light flashed. Immediately, with the sword as the center, the ground within 100 meters turned into powder. A surge of energy suddenly surged up. Then, a ball of burning flame suddenly emerged from Yang Dingtian. The bright red flame seeped with a domineering golden color. In an instant, the burning mystic fire enveloped Yang Dingtian and protected him. That's right, an energy shield formed by the mystic fire. Whether it could block Shiman Nu's fatal blow, Yang Dingtian did not know. Anyway, according to his current cultivation, it was really impossible to block this fatal blow. But fight! That's right, fight! Shiman Nu turned into a raging flame, and stopped in an instant. All of his mystic chi, martial spirit, mystic skill, and life condensed into a final blow, fiercely smashed towards Yang Dingtian. Boom! A loud sound echoed. An earth-shattering explosion. The entire square lit up with an astonishing light. It was like the white light of a nuclear explosion. Then, a huge wave of energy swept over crazily. The raging flame continued to expand and sweep out. The hard ground and huge rocks were all sent flying into the sky, and then directly crushed into powder. The hundreds of martial artists closest to them were directly blown into the air. Blood spurted wildly, and they fell to the ground. Everyone present cried out in shock. Shimin Nu's final fatal blow was actually so astonishing. In an instant the square was in chaos. All the martial warriors who were near the martial arts arena channeled their profound chi to resist the powerful impact of the energy. However, no one left. Everyone stretched their necks and looked at the battle arena that was enveloped in raging flames. Of course, no one cared about Shimin Nu's life or death. Everyone only cared about Yang Dingtian. What happened to Yang Dingtian? At the moment of the explosion, Yingyan's beautiful eyes were temporarily blinded, and she couldn't see anything. His mind instantly entered nothingness, and all his thoughts came to a halt. It was as if the entire world had sunk into complete darkness, as if it was the end of the world. After a long time, the flames dissipated. The entire martial arts arena was already blood-red. The hard ground was now completely red from the heat. As far as the eye could see, everything was a terrifying red color, emitting an astonishing amount of heat. Even if one were to just get close, they might be burnt to a crisp. In the middle of the martial arts arena, there was no sign of Yang Dingtian. Yingyan's delicate body trembled. She didn't even feel sad anymore. She only felt that the surrounding world was collapsing piece by piece. Everything in the surroundings was destroyed. After landing, Shimin Lai, Li Guanong, and the rest looked at the red martial arts arena. The blood in their bodies began to boil, and endless hatred began to surge. The murderous aura in their eyes soared to the sky. Without any shouts, Li Guanong, Shimin Lai, Madame Shimin, and the rest drew their swords. Close to 2,000 black blood cavalry in the square drew their swords. All the troops under Yang Dingtian's command all drew their swords. There were no shouts, no roars. At this moment, everyone only had one thought. Kill! 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 Kill Yang Yan, kill Shiminju, kill Tang Buizhao. Kill all the shameless enemies, and chop them into pieces to seek justice for Yang Dingtian. In the beginning, Qin Huayu, Yang Yan, and the rest revealed complacent sneers on their faces. Yang Dingtian was finally dead. This genius who had risen crazily was finally finished. However, when he saw the thousands of angry people drawing their swords, Yang Yan's expression changed slightly. He said sternly, "All members of the Tiando League, are you rebelling? Could it be that you want your 9 generations to be killed?" When he said this, the thousands of troops didn't put away their swords. Instead, thousands of people drew their swords and glared at the VIP seats and the Elders Guild. Moreover, these were all young warriors of Cloud Sky City. They weren't Yang Dingtian's troops. Yang Yan's expression changed. Yang Dingtian violated the rules of the martial arts competition. We will definitely punish him severely. However, since Yang Dingtian is dead, we, the Elders Guild, can discuss and confer Yang Dingtian the title of Cloud Sky City's Deputy City Lord. Yang Yan's words could be considered as winning the hearts of the people. It would have been better if he didn't say this. Once he said it, thousands of people drew their swords and coldly looked at everyone in the VIP seats. Then, the sound of swords being drawn rose and fell. Thousands of people all drew their swords and looked at Yang Yan and the Tiando League with incomparable anger and hatred. The thousands of swords formed a steel forest, making people feel intimidated. In fact, more than half of these martial artists had nothing to do with Cloud Heaven City. They were doing this because they worshipped Yang Dingtian and supported him. Now that Yang Dingtian was killed, they wanted to use their swords to seek justice. They were so hot-blooded that they even turned a deaf ear to the elders and sect masters' angry rebuke. Immediately, the Tianfeng Pavilion Master and Qin Huayu's expressions became extremely ugly. The current situation was really troublesome. Although these thousands of people were all basic warriors, they couldn't directly suppress them. However, he couldn't just use force to suppress them. If he did that, it would be a huge matter for the Heavenly Tao Alliance. The Tianfeng Pavilion Master slowly walked out and said loudly, "Everyone put down your weapons. We will definitely get to the bottom of this matter. In the end, no matter who is involved, no matter how high their status is, no matter how strong their cultivation is, the Tiando League will punish them with blood. Please believe in the Tiando League Northwest Branch." Before the Tianfeng Pavilion Master could finish her words, "Kill." Shimen Lai raised his giant sword and roared, "Kill." Thousands of people roared and raised their swords. Their killing intent soared into the sky. Then thousands of warriors raised their swords and slowly advanced. Although they weren't fast, they were extremely determined. The Tianfeng Pavilion Master's face turned cold and said coldly, "You're courting death." After saying that, she waved her hand. Swish, swish, swish. Swish, swish, swish. Suddenly, the black mass of soldiers on the city walls stood up and raised thousands of energy crossbows. Outside the city, thousands of horses galloped and rumbled. Countless cavalry rushed into the city gates like a tide. In the sky, countless flying mounts screamed. Countless flying mounts almost covered the sky. "You don't want face," the Tianfeng Pavilion Master said coldly. She was a woman who had always been tough and cold. In an instant, countless powerful armed forces rushed into Cloud Sky City and surrounded the thousands of warriors who were trying to riot. If they attacked, it would be like hitting a rock with an egg. Suddenly, half of the warriors began to retreat. They hesitantly withdrew their weapons and returned to their original positions. Their hearts were filled with fear, shame, and anger. However, there were still thousands of warriors who slowly and firmly stepped forward. It looked like a battle was about to begin. Both sides were on the verge of breaking out. Bang! At this moment, there was a sudden explosion in the square. Then countless red stones flew out, revealing a human figure. It was Yang Dingtian. He was half squatting in the battle arena, and his body was covered in wounds. He didn't die. It was just that his entire body was covered in burning red lava. Yang Dingtian didn't die. He actually didn't die. With a slight shake, the golden flame on his body gradually faded. Yang Dingtian stood up straight. "Long live! Long live!" Suddenly countless people shouted in ecstasy. Their voices filled the sky. "Long live! Long live!" Countless people were ecstatic. Countless people were excited. Whether they knew each other or not, they slapped the treasured swords in their hands. Yin Yin, who was in ecstasy, fainted on the ground. Mu Liani, who was beside her, was in ecstasy. She felt that her limbs didn't have any strength. Seeing Yin Yin faint, she wanted to help her up but realized that she couldn't even do that. Bang! Another explosion sounded. Bright red lava shot out in all directions. A straight figure stood on the martial arts field. Different from Yang Dingtian, this person stood straight. There were no wounds on his body, no bloodstains, and even his long robe wasn't damaged. It was fluttering in the wind. His expression was still cold and indifferent. It was Shimenju. Everyone cried out in surprise. When did he go to the battle arena? It was certain that he didn't just go there. He went there when Shimenju exploded. Otherwise, his entire body wouldn't be covered in red lava. Why was he there? Perhaps it wasn't important. But the important thing was that he appeared at the scene of the explosion. Yang Dingtian was covered in wounds, but he wasn't injured at all. Even his hair wasn't messed up. Even though he wasn't directly hit by Shimenju's explosion, he was very close to it. The energy attack he received was also very shocking. However, not only was he not injured in the slightest, not a single strand of his hair was out of place. This was too shocking. What level had his cultivation reached? I originally wanted to stop Shimenju from doing something stupid, but I didn't expect that it was still too late. Shimenju said indifferently, "He is really too stupid. In order to kill you, he ruined his reputation and died on the spot. It's really not worth it. You weren't going to live in the first place. What's the difference if you die in his hands or mine?" Sighing softly, Shimenju slowly drew out his sharp sword and said, "But since you are here, then let's fight." Just now, Shimenju was acting cool to the extreme. Almost everyone present was booing him. However, Shimanju's casual tone made people feel a sense of dread. It was a mysterious and terrifying feeling. Everyone just stared at Shimanju and didn't make any sound. "Oh right," Shimanju suddenly said. "You have fought 2 rounds in a row and consumed a lot of your mystic chi. I will let you recover first. I will wait for you. Before the sun sets, we'll fight again when you're fully recovered." After saying that, he also sat down cross-legged on the scorching red ground. Of course, he was just resting with his eyes closed. Chapter 342. Shimanju was slightly younger than Shiman Lai. He was already 30 years old this year. Shiman Nu had always pretended to be arrogant and callous, while Shimanju was completely mysterious. No one knew exactly how strong he was, but almost everyone was certain that he was definitely stronger than Shiman Lai. Previously, Shiman Lai's cultivation had surpassed Shiman Nu's, but in the recent year, Shiman Lai had always been leading his troops to wander about. He was mentally and physically exhausted. Not only did his cultivation not improve, it even regressed. Hence, he was overtaken by Shiman Nu, and Shimanju's cultivation had always been stronger than Shiman Lai's. But every time they sparred, Shimanju would purposely yield. He was never willing to take the limelight. In the entire Cloud Heaven City, perhaps only Shiman Wuya knew about Shimanju's cultivation. But now that Shiman Wuya was no longer around, no one knew about Shimanju's cultivation. Yang Dingtian also sat down cross-legged on the scorching hot ground and started to recover his battle mystic chi. Instantly, the battle arena was silent. Yang Dingtian and Shimanju were facing each other, with a distance of over 10 meters, as they sat cross-legged on the ground. As for Shiman Nu, he had long been smashed into pieces and turned into ashes. Just now, to resist Shiman Nu's fatal blow, Yang Dingtian had exhausted all of his mystic chi. Shiman Nu's final blow was simply too astonishing. Yang Dingtian didn't have the slightest confidence that he would be able to block this terrifying attack. In reality, if it was just purely based on his cultivation, he would definitely not be able to block it. The only result was his body being smashed into pieces. But Naga royalty's mystic chi mixed with mystic fire was simply too heaven-defying. It formed an energy light shield and blocked Shiman Nu's destructive explosion. But in the end he still could not block it. In the end, what allowed Yang Dingtian to avoid the fate of being smashed into pieces was his treasure sword, his heaven-defying soul sword. Previously, it was only Ah Chao's youngling sword. After that, it could devour the enemy's self-destruction damage. Now that it had become a genuine soul sword, the amount of energy it could devour naturally increased exponentially. Furthermore, this kind of pure and direct explosion energy was just nice for the soul sword to devour. However, even if he had the heaven-defying soul sword, he still had the heaven-defying obsidian flame. Yang Dingtian still suffered a huge impact. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and his body was riddled with wounds. And the opponent he was about to face was Shimanju, who was even more powerful than Shiman Nu. Most importantly, compared to Shiman Nu, Shimanju was more than 10 times calmer and wiser. The battle between Shiman Nu and Yang Dingtian just now was completely him courting death. As a 3-star martial saint, Shiman Nu was 2 grades higher than Yang Dingtian. Even though the final result of the competition was still Yang Dingtian's victory, Shiman Nu was still a 3-star martial saint. However, Yang Dingtian would also have a hard time winning. This was because the difference in cultivation between martial honorables and above was like the difference between heaven and earth. Therefore, even though Shiman Nu would still lose in the end, it would definitely not be that ugly, and he would definitely not die a violent death. As long as he competed normally, as long as he didn't play so much, this proud and superficial thing wanted to completely trample Yang Dingtian under his feet. He was playing too much. From the start, there was no need for him to compete with Yang Dingtian in sword skills. It was foolish. So much so that after he lost in sword techniques, he felt ashamed and impatient. After that, he competed with Yang Dingtian in sword souls. Although he lost slightly, it was only a slight loss. Yang Dingtian was also pushed back by over 10 meters, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, just like that, Shimin Nu felt that he had lost all his face and became completely crazy. He completely lost his mind and directly chose to die together with Yang Dingtian. Therefore, he was completely courting death. Not only did he die a violent death, but he also completely lost his reputation and became a synonym for shame. However, Shimin Ju was absolutely calm and deep to the point that it was frightening. This person's intelligence and viciousness were completely unimaginable. At that time, Qin Xiaobai was so cunning that he was directly played by Shimin Ju. Old thief Yang Yin was so cunning, but he was still used by Shimin Ju. In the end, Shimin Ju overturned him and became the person with the highest authority in Cloud Heaven City. It could be said that in the great battle a year and a half ago, Shimin Ju was the only victor. The others, whether it was Shimin Lai, Yang Dingtian, Yang Yin or Northwest Qin City, all lost miserably. Shimin Lai and Madame Shimin were expelled. Yang Dingtian's life and death were unknown. Qin Xiaobai died a violent death. Northwest Qin City's arm that extended to Cloud Heaven City was directly cut off. They had no choice but to marry Shimin Ju and win him over. They also supported him as the Lord of Cloud Heaven City. Shimin Ju completely used Yang Dingtian to cripple Qin Xiaobai and make himself the Lord of Cloud Heaven City. Qin Xiaobai was already cunning and vicious enough, but in front of Shimin Ju, he was completely like a pure child. Without a doubt, this Shimin Ju was completely the most venomous snake. 2 hours later, Yang Dingtian slowly opened his eyes. His battle mystic chi had recovered. Furthermore, he took out a small sacred water elixir and consumed it to recover his injuries. After all, in front of him was the most dangerous enemy. He couldn't be careless at all. Slightly circulating his mystic chi, Yang Dingtian's brows furrowed slightly. The situation was slightly bad. His mystic chi flow was slightly sluggish. Although the sacred water was incomparably mysterious and had the ability to revive the dead, it still required time. But first he needed time. Currently, Yang Dingtian's injuries might not be a big problem, but his cultivation was still slightly damaged. This way, it would be extremely disadvantageous to fight Shimin Ju. One had to know that Shimin Ju was today's strongest enemy. He was also the most important enemy, and also the final enemy. Only by defeating Shimin Ju could he become the Lord of Cloud Heaven City. Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian stood up. Your mystic chi has recovered? Shimin Ju asked indifferently. Yang Dingtian nodded. Do you want to fight with me? Draw your sword. Shimin Ju asked. Of course, Yang Dingtian replied. Swish. Yang Dingtian suddenly pulled out his sword. Suddenly, a golden light shone. Instantly, everyone narrowed their eyes. What kind of sword was that? It was actually so gorgeous, so noble, so domineering, and so sharp. He had never seen or heard of such a treasure sword before. Everyone present had seen fire-like swords, and they had also seen water-like swords. However, Yang Dingtian's sword was like light. It was so gorgeous that it seemed fake. Wow! Finally, countless people exclaimed in admiration. As for Qin Huayu, Sky Phoenix Pavilion Master, and everyone else, their eyes were bursting with incomparable jealousy. The tens of thousands of warriors present could only see the surface. They could only see that this sword was very gorgeous and beautiful. As for the experts present, they could see how astonishing the power of Yang Dingtian's sword was. At this moment, Qin Huayu was really about to vomit blood from jealousy. Good sword. I've never seen or heard of it before. Shimin Ju exclaimed in admiration. His attitude was very calm, and there was even a light of amazement in his eyes, and not naked jealousy. This person was really too dangerous. He had almost completely covered up his instinctive emotions. Directly compete with mystic skills? How about it? Shimin Ju suddenly said. Continue to fight until one of them falls. Yang Dingtian's heart skipped a beat. This person was so cunning. When he saw Yang Dingtian's heaven-defying sword, he immediately dodged. Firstly, he would definitely not compete with Yang Dingtian in swordsmanship. Secondly, they had to avoid coming into contact with Yang Dingtian's artifact sword. Anyone could see that Yang Dingtian's artifact sword was too sharp. Shimanju's suggestion directly suppressed Yang Dingtian's heaven-defying soul sword to the greatest extent. Mystic skills were completely a competition of mystic chi cultivation. Even if Yang Dingtian possessed the heaven-defying soul sword, the mystic chi cultivation he released was only equivalent to intermediate 2-star martial revered. Before we begin, can I ask what your cultivation is? Yang Dingtian asked. Shimanju said, around 5-star martial revered. Immediately, everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. This Shimanju had silently broken through to 5-star martial revered. 5-star martial revered was about the same as Songyu. Previously in the Netherworld Sea, if they did not compete with Mystic Fire, Yang Dingtian would not have any hope of winning. Furthermore, even if they competed with Mystic Fire, Yang Dingtian had to fight to survive and burn his Qi Si to obtain victory. At that time, if it was purely a competition of mystic skills, Yang Dingtian would not have any chance of winning. And now, Shimanju proposed to compete with mystic skills. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and nodded. Alright, let's compete with mystic skills. Chapter 343. Yang Dingtian only knew 2 mystic skills. One was the 8th grade Devil Flame Saber art, and the other was the lightning attribute mystic skill, Devil Sky Split. Using a lightning attribute mystic skill in this situation was simply courting death. Therefore, he could only use the 8th grade Devil Flame Saber art. Shimanju said indifferently, the mystic skill I am going to use is the Heaven and Earth Extinction Record. When he said this, most people didn't feel anything, but a few people couldn't help but take in a cold breath. Heaven and Earth Extinction Record. The rarely seen 8th grade superior mystic skill. The first time it was discovered was over 100 years ago. For this mystic skill secret skill, countless people had died in the world. At least 3 sects had been annihilated. Following the annihilation of Fiery Flame City, no one knew where this mystic skill secret skill was. Unexpectedly, it had fallen into Shimanju's hands. The Tiando League members present were astonished and puzzled. This Heaven and Earth Extinction Record had completely disappeared 80 years ago. At that time, Shimanju's father wasn't even born yet. How could this superior 8th grade mystic skill secret skill be in Shimanju's hands? However, it wasn't important how this secret skill landed in Shimanju's hands. What was important was that he had already learned the Heaven and Earth Extinction Record. Yang Dingtian's Devil Flame Saber art was at the 8th grade elementary level. Even so, it had caused a huge commotion in the world's largest auction. One had to pay an astronomical price to obtain it. Then, how powerful was Shimanju's Heaven and Earth Extinction Record? Shimanju slowly raised his sharp sword and said, this mystic skill of mine has a total of 3 moves. The first move, Heaven and Earth. The second move, Extinction. The third move, Heaven and Earth Extinction. I will use it according to the order. You have to be prepared. He actually said everything about how he was going to fight. But no one would say that he was stupid. They would only be sure that he already had a card up his sleeve. Originally, Yang Dingtian should have said the name of his mystic skill. However, once he said the 8th grade Devil Flame Saber art, his fake identity would be exposed. Of course, Qin Huayu and the rest already knew about it. However, if Yang Dingtian took the initiative to expose himself, it would bring about huge trouble in the future. I used an 8th rank profound skill, Inferno Wild Blade. It also has 3 moves. Yang Dingtian had changed the name of the Devil Flame Saber art to the Infernal Wild Saber. Although this was akin to deceiving oneself, it was very important in this situation. Alright, then let's decide the victor in 3 moves. Shimanju said, it's getting late, let's begin. After that, Shimanju slowly closed his eyes and started to circulate his profound energy to prepare the first move of his combat skill. Yang Dingtian also slowly closed his eyes and circulated his Xian Qi, preparing the first move of the 8th grade Devil Flame Saber art. Master, do you know about the Heaven and Earth Extermination Record? Yang Dingtian asked. I know, Dongfang Minmi said. It is the most mysterious and most famous mystical skill manual in the last 100 years. Because of it, at least tens of thousands of people have died. How powerful is he? Yang Dingtian asked. Extremely powerful, Dongfang Minmi said. A mere superior 8th level mystical skill manual may not be the best in the world. However, the uniqueness of this manual is almost rare in the world. What uniqueness? Yang Dingtian asked. Then I don't know. I have only heard of it from my ancestors, Dongfang Minmi said. In fact, even I am very astonished now. This Shimen Ju might be cunning and profound, which is rare in the world. However, a rare mystical skill manual like the Heaven and Earth Extermination Record should not appear in his hands. It is really strange. Even Master did not know how powerful this manual was. It seemed like it was really troublesome. Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian blocked off all his complicated thoughts, circulating his Xian Qi to the extreme, preparing the first move of the Devil Flame Saber art, Blazing Manic Saber. Soon, the Blazing Manic Saber was completely prepared. The Xian Qi in his entire body circulated rapidly, and circulated in his Xian meridians faster and faster. Yang Dingtian's entire body was getting redder and redder, and hotter. Boom! Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's entire body was completely red, as though he was a red-hot Iron Man. The Blazing Manic Saber was circulated to the extreme. The soul sword in Yang Dingtian's hand slashed fiercely. Boom! A huge flaming saber that was dozens of meters long slashed down toward Shimen Ju's head. From the looks of it, the mystical skill and sword beam did not seem to have any difference other than their outer appearance. Of course, it was not like that. The energy of the sword beam was uniform and fixed, while the energy of the Blazing Manic Saber that burst out from the mystical skill was circulating. Even the attack attribute and the strength of the energy in each area were different. In short, the energy effect of the mystical skill's attack was extremely complicated. Therefore, its destructive power far surpassed the Xian Qi sword beam. The Blazing Manic Saber that was dozens of meters long descended from the sky and slashed toward Shimen Ju. This Blazing Manic Saber was like a giant burning red blade. Even from a few hundred meters away, one could feel the extremely terrifying killing intent. This move of Xian Qi was undoubtedly domineering, and had an astonishing killing intent. Everyone present was overwhelmed with emotions as their admiration deepened. As for Shimen Ju, his eyes were still closed, as if he had completely ignored the Blazing Manic Saber that was slashing down from Yang Dingtian. Everyone was shocked. Even if Shimen Ju was powerful, even if Shimen Ju was a 5-star revered martial artist, facing the full force attack of a revered martial artist, and still standing there motionlessly was too pretentious. Even if you were a 5-star revered martial artist, you would still be injured. In the blink of an eye, the Blazing Manic Saber was above Shimen Ju's head. Shimen Ju made his move. Universe Extermination Record's first move, Universe. His wrist turned slightly, and the sharp sword in his hand trembled slightly. That was all. There was no light, no terrifying energy. It was as if nothing had happened. There was no stunning effect at all. Everyone was shocked and puzzled. This was the legendary upper grade 8th grade mystical skill. Universe Extermination Record? It should not be. It was too weak and too ordinary. They did not see anything. But immediately after, everyone was stunned. Because the Blazing Manic Saber, that was dozens of meters long that Yang Dingtian was slashing toward Shimen Ju's head, had actually stopped above his head. Then, it suddenly changed direction, and slashed towards Yang Dingtian with incomparable ferocity. How could this be? How could this be? Yang Dingtian looked at the incomparably ferocious Blazing Manic Saber that was slashing towards him. That was the Blazing Manic Saber that he had unleashed. Instead of attacking Shimen Ju, it had turned around and attacked him. But soon, everyone present understood the meaning of Universe Extermination Record. First move, Universe. It was the reversal of Universe. It was somewhat similar to the Universe shift in Jin Yang's novel, Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber. However, the Universe shift was only the return and reversal of a move on the surface. This Universe Extermination Record actually reversed a mystical skills attack. This was simply too shocking. In a real mystical skill battle, wouldn't a person who knew Universe Extermination Record be in an invincible position? Because the opponent could not attack him. while he could effortlessly reverse the opponent's mystical skill attack and hit his own body. There was no time to think so much. The most important thing now was how Yang Dingtian was going to deal with the counterattack of his blazing manic saber. Circulating his mystical qi, his left hand circulated the yin-yang qi transformation technique. He brandished the sword in his right hand to form a mystical fire energy shield. Then, he suddenly bent his body to receive the incoming blazing manic saber. As for Shimanju, he did not take the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. He only looked at Yang Dingtian with disdain. Boom! The incomparably savage blazing manic saber ruthlessly chopped down on Yang Dingtian's head. A portion of it was dissolved by Yang Dingtian, using yin-yang qi transformation technique. A portion of it was blocked by the mystical fire energy shield. But there was still a portion that ruthlessly chopped down on Yang Dingtian's body. Bang! A loud sound rang out, and the earth shook violently. A few hundred meters of the ground was cleaved open, forming a crack that was more than 10 meters deep. Pfff. Yang Dingtian violently vomited blood. His body flew out dozens of meters, and was about to fly out of the martial arts arena. Yang Dingtian clenched his teeth. With a backhand strike, he used his mystical qi to push himself back into the martial arts arena. After landing, he used his sword to support himself, and vomited another mouthful of blood. In the first move, Yang Dingtian was completely defeated. The tens of thousands of people present had an incomparably solemn expression. It was everyone's expression that had turned solemn. Not only Yang Dingtian's supporters, but there were also Yang Dingtian's enemies, including Qin Huayu and Yang Dingtian. Their expressions also turned unsightly, because Shimanju's universe extermination record was too heaven-defying, too shocking. Furthermore, Shimanju had never revealed a single move before. Only until today's City Lord battle did he use this heaven-defying mystical skill. It could be seen how deep his scheming was, and how big his scheme was. What the Northwest Qin clan wanted was a puppet city lord. Therefore, Qin Wanchou did not hesitate to marry his most gentle daughter to Shimanju. But this Shimanju seemed to be even more dangerous than Yang Dingtian, in terms of scheming. Purely scheming, purely cunning, Yang Yin was definitely not his match. The tens of thousands of people present stared blankly at Shimanju. They did not make a single sound. This mystical skill was too heaven-defying. They had never seen or heard of it before. No wonder this was the most famous mystical skill in the past 100 years. No wonder thousands of people died for this mystical skill, and 3 sects were exterminated. Are you feeling better? Shimanju said indifferently. I don't mind you resting for a while more. But the sun is going to set soon. Once the sun sets, the battle will be over. Yang Dingtian consumed an 8th grade Holy Spirit pill, and slightly recovered from his injuries. The flaming wild saber that he executed with all his might was simply too powerful. Furthermore, with the addition of the soul sword, even he could not withstand the attack power. Shimanju's goddamn universe extermination record made Yang Dingtian's mystical skill attack stronger. The more disadvantageous it was for him. Alright, prepare the second move, Yang Dingtian said. Shimanju nodded, and continued to close his eyes. His expression was indifferent, and played down the situation. Yang Dingtian also closed his eyes and started to circulate his mystical qi to prepare the second move, Serial 9 Ring Saber. As he was preparing, he was thinking of how to deal with Shimanju's heaven-defying mystical skill. The first move, Universe, was already so astonishing. It directly reversed Yang Dingtian's mystical skill. Then the second move, Extermination, would definitely be more powerful than the first move. What kind of effect would it have? Everyone present was filled with fear and anticipation at the same time. Chapter 344. Master, the first move, Universe, was so astonishing. What do you think the second move, Extermination, will be like? Yang Dingtian asked. I don't dare to say, Dongfang Minmi said. But it will definitely not be a reversal of the move. It should be an even more astonishing and direct attack method. Yang Dingtian was really in a dilemma. Originally, when fighting with others, the stronger the better. But after the other party had such a heaven-defying mystic skill, The stronger the mystic skill Yang Dingtian used, the stronger the attack he received. It was like punching a spring. The amount of strength that was used would be the amount of strength that was used. Perhaps, after using this method, Shimanju would not be able to reverse his attack. Using the billions of resentful spirits in the million spirit demon fire. In the second move, Lotus 9-ring saber, a large amount of mystic fire energy would be used and countless resentful spirits would be filled within. This way, Yang Dingtian could directly control the mystic skill that was used and could retract it as he wished. This way, even if Shimanju could reverse his attack, he would not be able to match the mental strength of billions of resentful spirits. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and circulated his mystic chi to the extreme. Subsequently, he forced the mystic flame into every mystic skill's energy. He condensed all the resentful spirits and permeated them into the revolving Lotus 9-ring saber. Huff! Yang Dingtian's entire body turned red again, as though he was completely burned red. His golden soul sword became brighter and brighter, until it was so dazzling that people could not open their eyes. Boom! Yang Dingtian's body trembled. An incomparably powerful energy burst out ferociously and drilled into the soul sword from his mystic meridians. Then, another soul sword burst out toward Shimanju. 9 energy lotuses bloomed in the air and rapidly rotated. Swish, 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 swish. Countless petals shot out from the flowers and flew toward Shimanju. Countless red lotus petals, energy lotus blades that were permeated with mystic fire, resentful spirits, and mystic skill energy, smashed toward Shimanju like a torrential storm. The entire effect was incomparably breathtaking and gorgeous. It was as though the sky was filled with a rain of flowers. Every petal was incomparably beautiful. The tens of thousands of people present could not help but exclaim in admiration as they looked up. Shimanju looked at the rain of flowers that covered a few hundred meters above his head and smiled faintly. The sharp sword in his hand trembled slightly. Universe Extermination Record's second move, Extermination. Shimanju's second move was finished, but still nothing happened. There was still no gorgeous scene, and there was still no beautiful effect. However, everyone held their breaths, waiting for a miracle to happen. It was as if nothing had happened. The countless lotus petals did not turn around and attack Yang Dingtian. However, just when everyone was puzzled, the countless lotus petals in the sky suddenly became chaotic and uncontrollable. Yang Dingtian hurriedly controlled the countless wraiths to prevent the energy lotus blades in the sky from going out of control. But at this time, the rain of flowers in the sky began to tremble violently and sway violently. Then it suddenly exploded. Countless flower petals exploded in the sky. Instantly, a few hundred meters of the sky was completely covered by the red light. After the countless petals exploded, they turned into a dazzling radiance that became even more gorgeous, like the most beautiful fireworks. However, under this gorgeous scene, there was a naked slaughter. The countless energy petals began to heat up and tremble internally before finally exploding. The energy of the final explosion had completely exceeded the energy of all the energy petals added together. Everywhere the light of the explosion covered, everything turned into dust. Everything was destroyed. Everything within a few hundred meters of the sky was smashed into pieces. This was Universe Extermination Record's second move, Extermination. No wonder it was called Extermination, because within a few hundred meters, everything was exterminated. The red radiance gradually dissipated. Everyone was shocked to discover that the battle arena had completely disappeared. Everything had turned into dust and was completely blasted to the ground. However, no one had time to look at the battle arena's traces. Everyone's eyes were looking for Yang Dingtian's traces. Yang Dingtian was still there. He was still half squatting in the dust. Almost half of his body was buried by the dust. With a slight shake, the radiance on his body dissipated, revealing his bloody body. At this time, there was almost no intact flesh on Yang Dingtian's body. Every place was covered in blood and wounds. From the looks of it, his injuries this time were even more serious than when Shimanju self-detonated. But he did not die in the end. His mystic meridians, his Naga royalty mystic Chi Si, were truly incomparably astonishing. They possessed extremely heaven-defying resistance to attacks. Powerful, Yang Dingtian exhaled and slowly said, just saying one sentence, a mouthful of blood also spewed out. After that, he was about to take out a medicinal pill and consume it. Yang Dingtian, there's no time. No need to recuperate. Shimanju suddenly said coldly. When you're dueling with others, will they still give you the chance to consume medicinal pills to recuperate? That's right. During a real duel, no one would give you the chance to consume medicinal pills. And in the battle with Shimanju previously, Yang Dingtian had already consumed medicinal pills. Shimanju's words directly knocked Yang Dingtian down from his high position of honor. It made the morale of Yang Dingtian's side completely plummet. Yang Dingtian's previous performance was simply too stunning. It would involuntarily make people develop feelings of worship and admiration. But now, in the battle between Yang Dingtian and Shimanju, not only was he defeated in 2 moves, he was also in the wrong. Instantly, the people who supported Yang Dingtian also lost confidence in their hearts. That's right. Shimanju was crafty and sinister. But in this duel, his performance was even more brilliant. Regardless of the result of the battle, or the battle posture, Yang Dingtian could of course forcefully consume medicinal pills, and then close his eyes to adjust his breathing. But in this way, his image in everyone's hearts would be completely destroyed. Prepare for the 3rd move, Shimanju slowly said. Let me tell you first. The power of this 3rd move is even more powerful than the 1st move, Universe, and 2nd move, Extermination combined. So basically, you can see Yin Yan Shiman for the last time. You absolutely cannot return to her side alive. Shimanju's voice was very faint, but no one doubted his words at all. Instantly, the tens of thousands of people present all looked at Yang Dingtian in grief. They couldn't do anything. Just now, Yang Dingtian cheated, and the tens of thousands of them could pull out their swords and rebel to seek justice for Yang Dingtian. But now they couldn't do anything, even if Yang Dingtian died in Shimanju's hands. Yin Yan really wanted to shout, "Husband, quickly come down. Let's leave Cloud Heaven City. I don't want Cloud Heaven City anymore. I only want you." She was shouting in her heart. To say something without conscience, her father's mission could no longer occupy the biggest part of her heart. What she wanted the most now was to live peacefully and happily with Yang Dingtian and Madame Shiman. But she didn't shout it out, because she knew that Yang Dingtian would definitely not come down. So instead, she revealed a smile on her face and slowly pulled out her sharp sword. Once Yang Dingtian wasn't around, she would follow him immediately. Perhaps there was a little regret in her heart, but Yang Dingtian had already done his best. He had already created a miracle. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and prepared for the 3rd mystic skill. But in his heart, he was thinking about Shimanju's Heaven and Earth Extermination record. The 1st move, Heaven and Earth, used a very special method to intercept the control of the mystic skill, allowing the mystic skill to reverse and attack the user. The 2nd move, Extermination, used a very special vibration to cause chaos in Yang Dingtian's mystic skill. Like a microwave, it heated up the mystic skill to an extremely unstable state, and finally caused an intense explosion. These 2 moves had already allowed Yang Dingtian to see some clues. This Heaven and Earth Extermination record should be using a very, very special energy. This energy might not be very strong, but it could affect and even control the mystic skill energy that was released. This was just like the signal jammer from the Earth era, which could destroy and interfere with all the other parties' communication signals. Or perhaps it was similar to the sunspot. So, this Heaven and Earth Extermination record was an extremely special and mysterious mystic skill. From the looks of it, it was almost unsolvable and invincible. But as long as one found its flaw, this invincible Heaven and Earth Extermination record would become completely unable to withstand a single blow. For some things, the more powerful it was, the more fragile it would be. The crux was whether you could find its weak point or not. Yang Dingtian's heart stirred. Perhaps he had already found the weak point of Heaven and Earth Extermination record. The 3rd mystic skill duel, which was also the final move, had officially begun. Chapter 345. 8th Grade Devil Flame Saber Art. Third move, Devil Calamity Prison Splitting Saber. Yang Dingtian didn't hold back at all, and circulated all his mystic qi to the extreme. The million-spirit demon fire was crazily condensed to the extreme, and poured into the Devil Calamity Prison Splitting Saber. Victory or defeat, or even life or death, all depended on this move. Without a doubt, Shimenju's Universe Extermination Record's final move, Universe Extermination, would be extremely shocking. However, there was no other way. Yang Dingtian had no way out. Not only did Yang Dingtian have no way out, but everyone behind him also didn't have any way out. If Yang Dingtian lost this move, then no matter if it was Madame Shimen, Shimen Lai, or the thousands of martial artists that followed Yang Dingtian, everyone would be facing a calamity of annihilation. Of course, this also included Jiao Liao and Zhang Lang, who had just joined him. The tens of thousands of people present held their breaths and waited for the final moment to arrive. Almost 80% of the people present hoped that Yang Dingtian would be able to obtain the final victory. However, if Yang Dingtian lost, they could only silently accept it, because in this battle with Shimenju, even though the opponent was cunning and proposed a battle of mystic skills, it was still a fair battle. However, the heavens had given Shimenju an almost heaven-defying mystic skill, which made Yang Dingtian unable to retaliate. The tens of thousands of people present still had hope for Yang Dingtian. However, once Yang Dingtian lost, they could accept it painfully, because they were already mentally prepared. Perhaps in their hearts, it was already impossible for Yang Dingtian to win, because Yang Dingtian's Universe Extermination Record was too heaven-defying. Win or lose, live or die, it all depends on this moment. Yang Dingtian suddenly roared and slashed with the sharp sword in his hand. Rumble. Instantly, the heavens and earth shook. All the air within a radius of several hundred meters changed color and temperature. The space within a few hundred meters was cut into pieces by an incomparably huge energy. The air within a few hundred meters had turned into a terrifying killer. The entire space was completely severed and squeezed together. This was the pinnacle of the Devil Calamity Prison Splitting Saber. Its killing power was not only limited to the mystical technique itself, but also all the air and energy in the surrounding space. Space was being warped, and the warped area contained an extremely terrifying energy. Once touched by this distortion, one's entire body would instantly turn into dust. The devil stems from the heart was too difficult to execute, so in terms of pure power, the Devil Tribulation's prison splitting saber technique was incomparably shocking. It would even go against many superficial principles of martial arts. Especially when Yang Dingtian was permeated with the terrifying million-spirit demon fire. Therefore, the might of the demonic calamity prison splitting saber had reached the pinnacle. If Shimenju were to be hit, then even if he was a 5-star martial revered, he would not be able to withstand it. Explosions sounded in the air. As countless people's expressions changed, Yang Dingtian's demonic calamity prison rending saber distorted space and tore through the air, crazily crushing toward Shimenju. Shimenju was slightly shocked. Without a doubt, he was also shocked by Yang Dingtian's pinnacle mystical technique. He was very clear that if he did not have the heaven and earth extermination record, facing this mystical technique of Yang Dingtian, even if his cultivation was 4 or 5 levels higher than Yang Dingtian, it would still be very terrifying. However, who asked him to have the heaven and earth extermination record? The corner of Shimenju's mouth curled up into a smile. His left palm drew an arc in the air, while the treasure sword on his right trembled slightly. Then his left and right hands slightly combined. Instantly, it was as if an invisible nuclear bomb had exploded. No one knew what had happened. There was no sound, no shocking scene. However, everyone could clearly feel the vibration and rotation of that terrifying energy. Immediately after, everyone discovered it. Yang Dingtian's demonic calamity prison splitting saber had revealed itself. The dozens of distorted space around Shimenju had all revealed their traces. Originally, Yang Dingtian's demonic calamity prison splitting saber was going to crush Shimenju from dozens of directions. But now, the demonic calamity prison splitting saber had revealed itself. Immediately after, Yang Dingtian's demonic calamity prison-splitting saber started to change color. It turned red. It became redder and redder, redder and redder. Finally, it was completely glaring. And the space that was cut apart trembled even more violently. The distortion and friction became even more intense. Shiminju had not only stopped Yang Dingtian's demonic calamity prison-splitting saber. Furthermore, it was also increasing its power. Yang Dingtian's demonic calamity prison-splitting saber was getting stronger and stronger. The energy kept on increasing and increasing. It directly rose to 2 times, 3 times, or even more. This should be the extermination of the heaven and earth extermination record. Shiminju used a special method to stop the demonic calamity prison-splitting saber. Furthermore, it increased its energy by several times. Very quickly, this kind of energy multiplied to the extreme. A few hundred meters of space was already as strange as the end of the world. A perfectly fine space was cut into dozens of pieces by the energy. Furthermore, it was constantly surging. The entire scene was extremely strange, terrifying, and filled with the color of science fiction. Then, the corner of Shiminju's mouth revealed an ice-cold little hand. The sharp sword in his hand gently slashed. The second half of the heaven and earth extermination record was about to be used. This demonic calamity prison-splitting saber, that had been strengthened by several times, was about to counterattack Yang Dingtian. Once counterattacked, there would only be one outcome for Yang Dingtian. That was to be completely crushed, or even turned into ashes. Sure enough, under countless horrified gazes, the demonic calamity prison-splitting saber, that had been strengthened by several times, began to change its direction. Then, like a death god from hell, it suddenly attacked Yang Dingtian crazily. The speed was very fast. At least, it was faster than Yang Dingtian's extreme speed when he turned and fled. Everyone closed their eyes in despair. Yang Dingtian was finished. This was everyone's thought. Not only Yang Dingtian's enemies, but also his family and his supporters. It was not that Yang Dingtian was not strong enough. He had already created a miracle. The crucial point was that Shiminju's mystic skill was too heaven-defying. They could not bear to watch, so they closed their eyes. Be destroyed! Shiminju roared. The one to be destroyed is you. Yang Dingtian's eyes suddenly opened wide as his palms suddenly spread open. Instantly, a soundless energy shot out like lightning and flew directly toward Shiminju. This energy did not have any shape or form. There was only a feeling of complete darkness. That's right. This was Yang Dingtian's darkness mystic flame. A flame that was born in Yang Dingtian's palm. It was condensed from the world's most powerful mystic flame, and the world's most powerful dark matter. It was the world's most terrifying dark sovereign. The darkness mystic flame's energy instantly shot in front of Shiminju. All of a sudden, Shiminju's figure trembled as his face revealed an inconceivable expression. Immediately after, his body began to tremble violently. His face began to distort, and became incomparably strange. Of course, the actual situation was not his face being distorted. Instead, it was the darkness mystic flame that caused the entire spatial energy to be distorted. Shiminju's third move, heaven and earth extermination, was stopped. It was affected and completely shaken. That's right. Shiminju's heaven and earth extermination record used a very special kind of energy. This kind of energy was somewhat similar to the lightning attribute energy. However, it was also like spiritual energy. It was all-pervasive and could affect and control almost any attacking energy. But without a doubt, in terms of energy level, the darkness mystic flame was almost the highest. Although Shiminju's heaven and earth extermination record's energy was incomparably shocking, in front of the energy black hole, it was really nothing. Almost instantly, Shiminju's heaven and earth extermination record was completely destroyed. Then, Shiminju completely lost control of Yang Dingtian's devilish calamity prison-rending saber. A few hundred meters of the sky began to change constantly. After a while it became frightening blood red. After a while, it became even more frightening dark. Finally, under Shiminju's horrified gaze, the devilish calamity prison-rending saber, that had been magnified by several times, continuously destroyed and collapsed. Like a destructive storm, it swept toward Shiminju. Shimanju turned around frantically and used his fastest speed to escape. However, it was obviously too late. This frightening energy storm arrived in an instant. One could only see a gust of darkness engulfing. At a speed visible to the naked eye, Shimanju's back robe instantly turned into nothingness. Then, his entire back was exposed to a frightening black color. Then, his fluttering long hair instantly turned into ashes. No! Shimanju let out a shrill roar. His entire body was sent flying a few hundred meters. Then within the naked eye's view, his entire body was charred and started to distort. The entire scene was incomparably horrifying. Without a doubt, Shimanju's heaven and earth extermination record had ultimately harmed himself. Once a flaw was found, this almost invincible and heaven-defying mystic skill instantly became incomparably weak. It was as though he did not have to use any effort to completely destroy it. Moreover, if it was purely a contest of mystic skills, although Shimanju might not have killed Yang Dingtian, he really would not have lost. Although the scene was not that stunning, Shimanju really would not have lost. After surpassing the martial honorable level, the difference in cultivation between martial artists of different levels was simply too great. Defeating a martial artist of 2 levels higher than oneself was already the limit. However, Shimanju had used the heaven and earth extermination record to amplify the energy of Yang Dingtian's demonic calamity prison splitting saber by several times. In the end, it had backfired on his own body. If this energy had directly struck Yang Dingtian's body, he would have been smashed into pieces. Then, if it had struck Shimanju's body, he would definitely not be able to withstand it. Bang! Shimanju flew out a few hundred meters. With a loud sound, he fell heavily onto the ground. His original appearance could no longer be seen. His entire body was charred black, and he was not moving at all. Even blood could not flow out from his body. No one knew if he was dead or alive. The entire square had completely sunk into a deathly silence. No one made a sound. Everyone was stunned by the scene before their eyes. Originally, everyone thought that Yang Dingtian would definitely die this time. No matter how one looked at it, Yang Dingtian would definitely die. It was impossible for him to obtain victory. However, the result was a shocking reversal. This time, it was Yang Dingtian who waved his hand casually, as if he was patting the air. Then it caused an earth-shattering tearing and explosion. Then, Shimanju flew out a few hundred meters. His entire body had completely turned into charcoal. No one knew if he was dead or alive. This result was too shocking. Not only had Yang Dingtian obtained victory, he had also obtained victory in such a casual manner. Instantly, the tens of thousands of people present stared at Yang Dingtian, as if they were looking at a god. This was truly a miracle. It was not something that a mortal could do. Under the almost hopeless situation, Yang Dingtian had made a shocking reversal and easily defeated 5-star revered martial artist Shimanju. No one knew why, but everyone clearly knew that this was a fact that was happening. Yin Yin and Madame Shiman looked at all this in disbelief. Yin Yin even pinched her own thigh, afraid that this was a dream. After confirming that it was not a dream, Yin Yin shouted in ecstasy. She quickly rushed over and hugged Madame Shiman tightly. Mulini's face was covered in tears. She could not find anyone to hug, so she rushed forward and hugged Jiao Liao, who was also a woman. All of Yang Dingtian's direct subordinates couldn't help but burst into tears. Everyone, whether they knew each other or not, crazily hugged each other. Long live! Long live! Countless people's shouts shook the heavens and the earth. The tens of thousands of people present felt as if they were in a dream. It was over. Yang Dingtian had won. In just over a year, he had become a martial revered expert from a novice martial artist. Furthermore, he had faced 3 experts in succession, and finally defeated a 5-star revered martial artist. What kind of miracle was this? If Yang Dingtian could do such an unbelievable thing, then what could stop him in the future? As for Yang Yin, Qin Huayu and the rest, their faces were still filled with shock. They looked at everything in disbelief. They really could not accept what had happened in front of them. Originally, their plan was to let Shimanju kill Yang Dingtian. As a 5-star revered martial artist, Shimanju did not even have the chance to fight with Yang Dingtian. However, who knew that not only did Yang Dingtian defeat Shimin Nu, but he also defeated Shimin Ju? Why did this happen? What the hell is going on? Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and slowly sheathed his sword. He bowed towards the VIP seats and said, Yang Dingtian has defeated all his opponents in the martial competition for the City Lord's position. May the Tiando League and Cloud Sky City's Elders Guild bear witness. The Sky Phoenix Pavilion Master's face was cold. She looked at everything coldly and did not give any reaction. Instead, she looked at Yang Yen. Yang Yen stood up and looked at Yang Dingtian with a complicated gaze. If it was possible, he was naturally willing to dismember Yang Dingtian into pieces right now. However, there were tens of thousands of eyes here. Looking at Yang Yan's face, Yang Dingtian tried his best to use his sword to support himself on the ground. At this moment, there was not a single part of his body that was not in pain. Every Xian vein in his body felt like it was about to break. The current him, even circulating a little bit of Xian Qi, was like hellish torture. After this battle, even with the holy water elixir, he still needed to recuperate for a few days to recover. The final battle with Shimin Ju had exhausted too much energy and Xian veins. Yang Dingtian, Yin Yin Madame Shimin, and all the people who supported Yang Dingtian gathered their gazes on Yang Yan's face, waiting for his final announcement. Yang Yan's shamelessness could not be underestimated at any time. They were capable of doing anything. Previously, Yang Dingtian used the sword spirit to defeat Qin Xiaobai, and was slandered as a spy of the evil ways. He was almost killed in Cloud Sky City, losing his reputation and dying on the spot. However, this time, Yang Dingtian had obtained the City Lord's position in the martial arts contest. If Yang Dingtian obtained the City Lord's position, it would undoubtedly be the end of the world for Yang Yen and the rest. Could it be that they were just going to wait helplessly for death? Everyone stared at Yang Yen, trying to give him a huge psychological pressure. However, they were also very worried. They were waiting for Yang Yen to make irresponsible remarks and try to reverse the outcome of the martial arts contest. Taking a deep breath, Yang Yen finally began to announce, I represent Cloud Sky City's Arbitration Council to declare the validity of this martial arts contest. When these words came out, everyone was shocked. Since when did Yang Yen become so shameless? He actually did not distort the truth and did not slander Yang Dingtian. However, this was only the beginning. Everyone continued to perk up their ears to listen. Yang Dingtian defeated Shimin Yen, Shimin Nu, and Shimin Ju. He obtained the final victory of the martial arts contest. Following Yang Yan's announcement, everyone's anxious hearts instantly calmed down. Then, they could not wait to burst into cheers. They had already begun to celebrate the birth of the new City Lord. They were celebrating the birth of the youngest sect leader in history. Only Yang Dingtian knitted his brows tightly. Yang Yen had accepted his fate just like that? Not struggling anymore? It really did not seem like it. It was completely not his style of doing things. Following that, Yang Yen looked at the rostrum and said, Pavilion Master, as the chief of the Tiando League's Northwest branch, the final result will be announced by you. The Sky Phoenix Pavilion Master did not stand up. She coldly announced, Yang Dingtian obtained the City Lord's position. As the final victor of the martial arts contest, I declare that the new Cloud Sky City Lord is. At this moment, the corner of Qin Huayu's mouth suddenly revealed a cold smile. Yang Dingtian's heart suddenly trembled. The new Cloud Sky City Lord is Yang Dingtian. The Sky Phoenix Pavilion Master was about to call out Yang Dingtian's name. Wait! Suddenly, a shout came from the distant sky. Then, a tall figure flapped his wings and descended from the sky, landing on the martial arts field. Reporting to the Tiando League's Northwest branch and Cloud Sky City's Elders Guild. I have specially come to participate in the martial arts contest for the Cloud Sky City Lord. The person spoke clearly. He was an acquaintance. Yang Dingtian looked at this person with incomparable shock. He never thought that it would actually be him. Yan Biaqin. The Yan Biaqin who fought with Yang Dingtian for Qin Mengli. The Yan Biaqin who swallowed the Mirage Void Fire. The Yan Biaqin who spared Yang Dingtian's life under the Central Lake. Yang Yen looked at Yan Biaqin. His turbid eyes instantly lit up. It was as if his entire person was completely ignited. Then, Yang Yin suppressed his emotions and said, "Only Cloud Sky City's disciples who are of the same generation as Yang Dingtian and Shimen Ju can participate in the martial arts contest for the Cloud Sky City Lord. You are not a Cloud Sky City's disciple. How can you participate?" Yen Biaqi knelt down on one knee and said, "Cloud Sky City's disciple Yang Yuncheng's son, Yang Zheng greets the elders." Then, Yen Biaqin suddenly tore off the mask on his face, revealing another handsome and solemn face. Yin Yan's delicate body suddenly trembled. She revealed a look of disbelief. That's right. This person was Yang Zheng. According to the legends, Yang Zheng should have already been beheaded. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.